you.
I just flew in at 1 a.m. I'm gonna.
Dr. Hammond was great.
Thank you so much, Member Wong, but I'm gonna pass. I'm just like, I have a barely awake brain right now.
Even with an excuse, I've got off 48 hours.
Okay.
Fire stations.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know what it. Did I give the dog the chance?
I can do it. I'll help. Probably the second time is easier.
Yeah.
And I'll help you in however you need to.
And I left.
We'll cater to you. All right, so before we get started, Taylor, can you hear us?
This is probably.
Yeah, and the sound quality is okay?
White, yellow,
Yellow.
yellow, okay.
Oh, we can't hear you. Are you on mute?
Hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay. The sound is okay.
Okay, let us know. So members of the public, she is running all of the sound and making sure that people can hear what's happening as a member of the public. So she may ask you to speak up or to step up to the microphone at any time. Thanks, Kaylee.
Mhm.
Oh, and just one other note before we get started. So I mentioned I'm Jennifer James. My lovely colleagues are here as well. Diana McDonald. And Kaylee is here too, so I think we're all here.
Great. So, good morning, everybody, and members of the public. We're going to start the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded on WebEx. The recording will be available on the Mental Health SF website for meetings. So we can start the recording.
Kaylee, can you start the recording, please?
Thanks, Kaylee. Welcome to the May 2023 meeting of the Mental Health San Francisco Implementation Working Group. We will call the meeting to order.
Cool.
And
The next slide, please, Kaylee. There we go. Okay. The roll call will now be taken to establish quorum. Upon your name being called, please respond with here or present or something kind of like that. Member Ivan. Here. Member Fields.
I have it. I'm watching for him.
Okay, not yet.
In the ether.
Member Gonzalez. Member Hammer.
here,
Chair Lassar is out. Member Lipton.
Just want to make a comment that this is the week of the American Psychiatric Association, which is visiting San Francisco. They are populating Moscone Center as we speak. And all the buses have been blazoned with a vendor selling schizophrenia services, which is just present.
Member McWeekend.
Present.
Vice Chair Patterson. Member Salinas.
present.
Member Short.
Here.
Member Wong.
Here.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 members. So we have a quorum, which is at least 7.
Great.
And then next slide, Katie, please. So per the IWG bylaws, the IWG must vote to excuse absent members from a working group meeting. If the working group does not take such a vote at the meeting or at a previous meeting, then the minutes shall note that the absence is unexcused. So any member who misses 3 regular meetings of the working group within a 12-month period without the express approval of the working group at or before each missed meeting will be deemed to have resigned from the working group 10 days after the 3rd unapproved absence. So,
And Chair Hammer and group, we received a notification from Chair Lassar that she will be out for the meeting. We did not receive a notification from Vice Chair Patterson or just Chair or Member Patterson. And Steve is Member Fields is trying to get on the phone, but he's stuck somewhere in
there's
technology.
now here, so.
That has to be him, right?
I don't know if that is that. I don't know how we can tell what that is.
Here, hold on, We see a caller. Is that you? Okay, we will wait to hear from you, but Steve is trying. So like when you're excusing your absent members today, it's like one is excused, one has offered an excuse, one has not offered an excuse or notification. It's up to you how you want to handle that.
So then normally we vote on whether to excuse somebody.
Yeah.
So how do we do that if there's one excused and one unexcused and one in limbo?
Yeah. Do you want to vote them as a block and vote them both together as an excuse or an excuse, or do you want to handle them separately, given that one has offered notifications, one hasn't?
Probably separately, right?
Separately? Okay. So separately. So the first one would be for Chair Lassar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then Chair Lassar has submitted a request for an excused absence. Chair, is there any discussion before we vote?
Any discussion about excusing Chair Lassar's absence? We can call a vote.
Okay, so I'm gonna call roll.
need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Eisen
So-
moved and who, I didn't see who second.
Hammer.
Hammer seconded. Okay, so I'll now call roll and ask each member to vote yes or no to excuse Chair Lassar. Member Eisen.
Yes.
We didn't get member Fields yet. We don't know what's up with that. Okay, so member Gonzalez. Oh, sorry. Yes, excuse. Like here. This is just like wake you up at the beginning. Excuse absence. Member Hammer.
Approved.
Member Lipton.
Approved.
Member McGuigan.
Approved.
Member Salinas. Approved. Member Short.
Approved.
Member Wong. Okay, so we have 8 yeses and 0 nos. We have a majority vote to excuse the absence. And then now what do we do?
And now we do the same for Member Patterson.
Any discussion on the, I guess first we'll do a motion.
And I'm sorry, so he is not here, but there was no
Did
communication.
not communicate. So any motion to excuse or not excuse Member Patterson? Or we discuss.
We defer the motion
For what? Why?
In
in
case.
case he shows up.
Yeah.
Sure, we can defer that until the end of the meeting. That's a good idea. Thanks, Member Lipton. So that would be a motion to defer.
Okay, motion defer.
Second.
No, first.
Member Wong's,
Yes.
oh, sorry. Member McGuigan, seconded that motion, and then we can take a roll call.
So defer, who's first? Who's
Do we
second?
actually need to vote on this?
We need to. I don't think we
Okay.
need to vote on the, yeah. Let's just.
Okay. Okay, and then do
So
we
let's- we
know
can do
if,
It's kind of like rearranging the chair.
We'll come back to that at the end of the
but if we
meeting.
did the same thing with Steve, do we know if that's Steve or?
That is Steve.
We asked Haley.
How do we know? I have text confirmation.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
is there a requirement to be on video?
no,
For a public meeting?
Not-
No.
he has gone through the approval process to be able to do it remotely
Right, no, I know remotely.
and not video, just like call in would be fine. It's
Oh,
sufficient.
sure.
So
That's
then,
my understanding, but
I think we should probably check. I mean, I think for the members of the public, we should just
Yeah.
make sure that we're not that big.
okay, thank you. Yeah, we will double check that.
No identifying.
Yes.
Haley? Can you move the caller that's called call-in user 3 to a panelist, please?
Oh, my gosh. WebEx worked. Sorry. I'm not sure.
Small victories, huh?
So Steve, can you hear us?
Wait, so how does he unmute himself? Does
I think he can, *3 to unmute yourself.
he?
I think Haley can unmute a phone caller too. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, Taylor, can you try to unmute him?
We can't hear you, Kaylee.
We just, you got your likes. I know I'm not.
This mic, oh my goodness. He might have to press *6, but I already
So Steve, can you
sent him a
please,
request.
Can we be quiet for just? Hold on, people, so you can hear us. Steve, can you do *6 and see if you can say something?
Yeah.
*6.
Or *3, because when we do the public comment, it says to do *3.
Try *3. And try *1, then 2, then 3.
Can we unmute him on our end?
Haley, yeah. Haley, you can't unmute him?
I can request an unmute. Let me see. Yeah. I've tried it 2 ways and it just says it sends a request.
Ooh, you're the host.
I know, but like on Zoom, you can't unmute. The host can't unmute anybody.
If
You just
if he
mute
was
them.
on video, then I think it would unmute, but because he's a call-in,
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, I tried calling in
Oh, you're right.
earlier and
Yeah,
I
but
did
he
this
just-
process with my phone, and when I hit a request, the WebEx will say, okay, the host wants to unmute you, click this and that.
Can you text him and say,
Yeah.
So Steve, I am texting you. And you confirm you, right, I'm texting you, Steve, right now. And you can text me back.
If you can hear us.
If you can hear us, just confirm that you've tried both *3 and *6.
Yeah.
And then we might want to see if we can. I'm sure in this new day and age, the city could offer tech support to appointed members of commissions and committees to make sure that they can participate if they have the waiver.
Okay, he has tried both and nothing happens. Thank you, Steve. So you will be listening in now.
Can you hear us?
He can hear us, he just can't communicate. I'm gonna keep, I know this is frustrating, Steve, so I'm gonna keep my text open and I will be your mouthpiece for now. I'm sorry. And we'll see if we can get IT in here to help out, communicate with you.
So then do we count him now as present?
Chair, I would. We should, right?
If he can't vote, he can't be heard by the members of the public.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that.
Okay. Steve,
counts
let's,
as present.
why don't we just, we'll come back to it like we did with- yeah.
We'll come back to it, okay.
Even sleep deprived, you're still smart. Okay, so then we're all done with, we're gonna defer the voting for the rest of the people who are gone. So potentially Steve and also member Patterson till later in case they come.
Great. Okay,
And I am done with all of that roll stuff.
good, okay. So, yeah, and I really hope we can get, we can get member fields on so that we can participate in the discussions today. But it's a little hard to imagine how it could if we can't hear him and we can't see him.
It's like, since we've done this, it's, quite a lot every time with Steve's technical issues. Hopefully it won't take up so much time in each years.
Yeah, I mean, now with return to in-person meetings and both members of the public and members of commissions and committees being able to get an exemption and do a remote participation, I'm hoping that the city has some mechanism of supporting people to do that, so it's not such a rigmarole every
Can't
time.
even get Wi-Fi in this building.
Oh, I know.
It's wishful thinking.
Right. Okay, all right, so we'll go to meeting goals. Next slide, please. Okay. So, today our meeting goals are to receive an update on mental health San Francisco by Dr. Cummins. Second, to understand the proxy budget and any new developments in terms of proxy budget this year. continued discussion of our draft implementation working group resolutions. We will have some time for reflection by those who attended the Sunrise site visit last week, and then an update on IWG membership and governance. Great.
We have a lot.
Cover.
Are we continuing discussion on those resolutions or are we voting on them?
Both.
Okay.
We'll have some time for discussion.
Oh, okay.
I'm tired by now.
Yeah.
It's required.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so, so it sounds like we're gonna, there is Dr. Cummins.
Okay, great.
You need a couple breaths today.
I just jumped off the bike.
So we have a couple.
Yeah, so would you like to get settled? Because we can do the site visit discussion if you'd like.
We can look a little minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we do that and let's see how you feel.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Like reception.
Today we have two presenters, Dr. Cummins and then Kelly Kirkpatrick. Thank you for being here, Kelly. And we will be doing an overview of mental health San Francisco. I don't believe today we're doing any focused presentation or updates on a specific domain, but more of an overview and then discussion of the budget. Next slide. And next, we will move to discussion on number one, approval of the April 2023 implementation working group meeting minutes, which were sent to us and also are posted for the public on the IWG website. Are there any changes to the minutes as posted on the website and as we received them? Any changes? Hearing none, let's open it up to public comment for anything related to the April minutes.
Great. So members of the public who wish to provide public comment on the meeting minutes from the April IWG meeting are invited to participate in 3 ways. I'll first call on those who are here in person. Then I will call on the participants who are joining online. If you're joining online and would like to comment, please raise your hand virtually and Kaylee will call on you and unmute you when it's your turn to speak. Then we'll call on those who are joining by phone. If you're participating by phone and would like to comment, please follow these instructions. Press pound and then pound again, then dial *3 to line up to speak. A system will prompt you to indicate that you have raised your hand. Please wait until the system indicates that you have been unmuted, and then you may begin your comment. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. I will give you a 30-second warning when your time is nearing completion. So is there anybody in person who would like to comment on the April meeting minutes? Okay, anybody online with a hand raised that would like to comment on the April meeting minutes? I do not see anybody. Does anybody see anybody with a hand raised? Okay, and also with the phone people. No hands raised there either.
Can we just do a test? Shalini or Catherine, can you do pound, pound and press 3 to just let us know that the sound is working?
So pound, pound, and then *3.
They may have stepped away.
So you try the pound, pound, and then
Try,
*3?
yeah. Okay, let's move on. Sorry.
Oh, wait. Oh. Okay, Shalini has okay. So then I think you have to do something, Kaylee.
I'm so
For being so theatrical.
amazed.
Kaylee has a call.
Hi, can you put the number again and I can try calling in?
Shalini, it worked.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay,
I'm
we know
not,
the sound system works.
I'm just on the mute on the webinar. I'm not calling in.
Oh, okay.
I was just saying,
Okay.
I can call in. I just need the number again. It's on the wrong page. I can't see the number.
It is, do you have something to write with?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's 415
Mhm.
655
Mhm.
0001.
Okay, let me try that.
Well, then you need the access code, so you also need to write this down as well.
Go ahead.
2496
Mhm.
825
Mhm.
0050.
0050.
So then I don't know if you need the password or not, but write this down just in case.
Okay.
Like, I'm experiencing mental health.
75.
I can't hear her. I can't hear her because I
Sorry.
can only hear
Because
that.
we're canceling. The full-
Okay. The password, if you need it, is 87827525.
87827525.
Yes,
Okay, let me try calling in.
thank you. Okay, Jen, did you want to wait till that is tried, or should we move on with voting?
Move on.
Okay. So public comment is now closed.
I think I'm gonna, I didn't say, we should make sure the public can. call
Yeah.
in Before we move on. So let's just wait for the test.
Okay.
Thank you, Celine. Yeah, let's see if Charlie can get it.
Steve now says his name, so that
That's
somehow
progress.
happened. So something.
I changed it
Oh, okay. Thank you, Kaylee.
for clarity.
Okay, but Charlie's still trying to call in. right?
Yes.
Testing.
Yesterday's technology tool. Just a call in.
Okay, great.
Okay.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay, okay.
It did make me put the password in, so it made me put the code, the original 249 number and the 878 number.
Then how did you unmute? What did you do to get unmuted?
Well, I pressed #3, pound, and then it said, in order to unmute, you have to press *6. And so then I pressed *6.
I have to send a request for the unmute though. So on my end, I send a request and then it tells her those directions.
So you, Kaylee, you get a notice that somebody's trying to unmute?
No, I get a hand raised. So like next to her,
Yeah.
Okay.
there's a
right.
hand. So then the hand will be present. So then that lets me know they raised their hand. And then I request to unmute.
Okay,
That's
Kaylee,
what
but
the
there are
pound
no other
sound-
members of the public who wish to speak on the minutes, is that correct?
Nobody else with the hand raised, Kaylee?
No.
Okay. Great. All right, so.
I'm going to hang up. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Charlie.
Shalini.
Can we have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 2023?
And motion.
Thank you, member Selena. Second?
Second.
Second, member McGuigan, and please.
Yes, I will now call roll and ask each member to vote yes or no to approve the April meeting minutes. So member Eisen.
Yes.
Member Fields. If you could unmute and vote.
Same thing, give them the instructions.
So press pound and then pound again. And then Haley should get a notification that your hand is raised. In the meantime, I think we're gonna do the other votes and then
Yeah, he can.
hopefully, okay. Member Gonzalez, member Hammer,
Yes.
member Lipton,
Yes.
member McGuigan,
Yes.
Member Salinas?
Yes.
Member Short?
Yes.
Member Wong?
Yes.
Okay, we have 8 yeses and 0 nos. We have a majority to approve the April minutes.
Great.
Back to you, Chair.
Okay, we're going to move to discussion item number 2, our update from Mental Health SF Director, Dr. Hillary Cummins. Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you for. So just, I have to jump out at 10 for an hour and then we'll be back. So if there's time and outstanding questions, I don't know what the agenda will bear, but I will be back. So I have a couple of updates that I wanted to share with you. First, regarding some changes at the Board of Supervisors, which we've talked about briefly. As I think I've discussed, there's a new Homelessness and Behavioral Health Select Committee that's being chaired by Supervisor Ronan. There's been 2 meetings, I believe, of that committee. That committee will not be meeting in June because of budget hearings and will resume, but there's a special session of the committee on June 2nd. Regular sessions will resume in July, and we expect to have 2 hearings in July. They don't have scheduled dates.
I have a question about that specifically. Do you think it'll have an impact on whatever contracts that are moving through the system since they're the somebody's 12 years old?
I know. I may phone a friend here, but I think they will not ultimately. We have aimed to schedule, I'm going to just let Mallory speak.
I'm close because we know the microphone for minutes is, we are making every effort to get all of our expiring contracts in front of the board at the special session and any remaining regular business that the board is holding. So it's been quite a push.
Yeah.
We're trying very hard to get them through.
I think for people who are less close to this, but probably just for people's awareness, I think it's sort of a thread of conversation we have had in the IWG, is historically the contracts were heard by the committee, finance, general accounting, I forget the name of it. With this new select committee, all of the behavioral health contracts will be heard by this one committee. In addition, the committee can and will, and I'll mention that in a second, hold hearings on particular topics. So the nice thing, I think, from my point of view and our point of view, is that it unifies different threads of conversation which come up both in the context of contract approvals and hearings. Because often those things have implications for one another and are tied. So I think it's an opportunity, I think very similar to sort of the conversations in this group about the connectedness between behavioral health overall and sort of that what has been tagged as MHSF related work. And so I think the nice thing, though it is definitely an adjustment for all of us, is that those sort of Board of Supervisors hearing this will all be one and the same, but it has been a push to member Isaac's point of view. We expect to have 2 hearings in July. We don't have dates for them. One of them is regarding our system of care and describing it. This may be of interest to all of you, particularly as we have been, I think it's fair to say, struggling to do kind of a mapping that's responsive to the members here, but also to be articulate about our overall services and systems of care. There will also be another hearing on case management resources we have in our system. Also, I know highly relevant to this group. We will we'll keep you posted about as those hearing dates get scheduled.
These are both in that committee, is what?
They are both in that committee.
For July.
For July. Don't know the dates. Don't know the dates.
He wants to be at the case man.
Yes, Member Salinas, I expect that you will be there. Or virtual. I think we're allowed to ask for virtual public comment too. I wanted to share our current thinking about the reconfiguration of SCIRT as it relates to MHSF. I think many of you, I know many of you have raised the question whether skirt, as now reconfigured, is sort of part of MHSF. Our plan going forward as of today is to focus our updates on the follow-up care that we will be providing to individuals encountered by skirt through both our best neighborhoods team, which we've described to you, and its kind of overarching body, the Office of Coordinated Care. Skirt, as you all know, is currently still part of the MHSF ordinance and will be included in the visuals and descriptions depicting MHSF. Bless you. You're putting further thought into what, what other reports and so forth may look like the implementation report and so forth, and are happy for recommendations there. The IWG, just to kind of reiterate, could continue to request data information on skirt from the fire department and the Department of Emergency Management, as part of MHSF. Opioid settlement also in the news, and you may have read about it or be aware of it. What's going on there? On May 17th, Mayor Breed announced that the City Attorney David Chu and his office have secured $230 million over the course of a number of years. So different settlements, and I actually don't have the exact time course, but they're rolled out or divided up over multiple years. This does include $57 million in the first year. This is funding as part of a negotiated settlement with Walgreens. Generally allowable uses of the funds include prevention, treatment, and overdose prevention, including purchase of naloxone. The first payment was made to the city in late 2022. Approximately $7 million has been received to date. Decisions about the use of the settlement dollars will go through the budget process, both mayor and board of supervisors. And I think what it's important to share is, as you have heard, though not sort of tagged as an MHSF domain, we've tried to keep this group abreast of our overdose prevention work. We see these settlement dollars as critical to strengthening and expanding the reach of that work. Okay. Lastly, I was just, yes.
Sorry, question about the use of the settlement dollars. Within the, do you anticipate within the new process of the Behavioral Health Commission or committee or whatever it is, that they would have some kind of a hearing on the use of the settlement dollars?
I
to
don't
gather
know yet.
input from community members?
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I don't know yet.
Seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
I know the department doesn't direct the board of supervisors. So
We should not direct the board of supervisors.
It's hard to hear Member Eisen.
Select committee, not the mental health commission.
yes, the select committee, and but the department doesn't direct the committee. We move the speakers behind the computer, and so Kevin's having a hard time.
Thank you.
I guess I don't know to whom the commission
The commission.
respond, reports
The
do.
city staffs the commission, but doesn't direct.
Yeah,
You're talking about the BPH commission now? Okay.
no,
No,
not
no,
the
no,
commission.
the mental health commission, not the health.
The new-
commission.
Which is now called the Behavioral Health.
The
Commission.
behavioral
Well,
health
it's
commission.
housing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Sorry?
Isn't it housing also? Isn't it like all HS?
You're talking about the BOS committee
That's why
or
I'm
the mental
confused
health
here. What,
commission?
what?
Then there's
You're talking about BOS committee.
No, no, no.
I think there's a new.
There's two things, the new
Oh, sorry.
BOS select committee, and then there's the behavioral health commission.
Right.
Which is new.
No,
No,
One of them is new.
many years.
the board of supervisors select committee on behavioral health and yes,
It's new.
housing, homelessness.
Let's include homeless.
Oh, and housing, right.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm making.
That's BOS.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. And so it doesn't, obviously, the department doesn't set the agenda
The way I understand it
for that committee.
is, whatever board member is sponsoring an item, they can choose to bring it to that committee.
Yes.
I understand it so far, what
Okay.
it's like slotted in there.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, and I think that's a good point. So for example, Supervisor Mandelman had called a hearing that sort of predating the establishment of that select committee, but then that hearing got moved into the select
Exactly,
committee, for
yeah.
example.
Right, right.
So finally, I just want to take a couple minutes to acknowledge some of our departing members. Member Salinas, Member Wong, Member Eisen, and Member Short. I just want to say to each of you,
Didn't know I was part.
I didn't know either.
Oh,
I thought I wrote and say I would like to continue.
well, I will rescind the.
If I am, I'm okay.
But I think you guys have to apply. You have to still reapply. So maybe that's where the confusion is.
yeah.
Okay, we're not saying goodbye yet, and we're gonna,
It's one more meeting anyway.
there's one more meeting.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there one more meeting?
Misunderstood.
Okay, we're gonna roll that back, but
Well, welcome to continuing.
yay!
I just want to know, so is there something we need to do to renew or whatever?
I'll follow.
You follow up?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm not gonna talk about that anymore.
To be like a cupcake or anything involved? That'll be next time. Back to the
We'll do that next time, that cupcake.
cup.
So can I just ask for clarity? So member Eisen and member Salinas are definitely
Yes.
going off it. Okay.
They have.
And then member Wong and member Short will be, we hope,
For the minutes.
reapplying,
So the fixer.
continue.
Yeah.
Or considering reapplication.
Right.
Yeah.
And member Lassar,
Quality. And
member Lassar's on the same list, so you want to check, it was that if you can just, I jumped ahead in the agenda, okay, but her name was on that same list, and so
Yeah.
you might want to check to see if she's just kind of terming off and can reapply, or whether if she gave notice to not continue, so I saw her name in bold, I think,
Okay,
Chair Lassar, sorry.
So we have a little time.
this is not the time.
Yeah, that was really by mistake.
We need to talk about replacements and how we're doing recruiting and
Mhm.
filling spots. And I'd like to do that very soon.
That'd be good. We'll be covering that.
so let me just roll back so we're all on the not. Wow, this is really, I apologize, everyone. Okay. So I'm hearing from Valerie that we do not have, before our departing members, Member Eisen, Member Salinas, we do not have another meeting.
There's nobody in June?
The June
Is
meeting,
there a
right?
June meeting?
Your term ends May 31st.
Oh. Well, I'm a jolly sugar. So,
I can't figure have brought you up.
I have voiced my concern to Valerie though, because as the suits are all moving into budget, will this get onto agenda before next month? And then will we have quorum if, we barely had quorum today. And then will we have quorum next month if both of us are out? And so I have offered to Valerie that I would stay an additional month
that's.
until it gets heard.
Okay, and we don't have city attorney here to know whether that's allowed, but my suggestion would be that we entertain a motion when we get to this item on the agenda, which I think is the last on the agenda, that we would entertain a motion about extending people's appointment for a month, pending probably deputy city.
It's also a question as to whether if the seat is vacant, opposed to somebody is absent, if that changes quorum. Something to look at.
Right,
It does change quorum. We heard that we have to have 7 members here.
Got it.
Yeah.
okay,
Sorry.
so we'll, so Director Cunnins,
Okay,
feel free to, if you want to talk about the
yeah, well,
whose term is ending at the end of this month. But we will also entertain a motion later in the meeting about the possibility of extending your term for a month.
Well, I'd like to say a few words in case. Sorry, this is so confusing. So we don't have cupcakes. I'm sorry.
We'll invite you back.
We do have cake. So I just want to really thank first member Salinas. Just I have personally, and we have all enormously benefited from your profound expertise in this field around case management, around how to care for people with serious mental illness and substance use disorder. I have learned so much personally from your comments, and I have appreciated them, and my entire staff choose on some of the things that you say in meetings. And I know one of the kind of conversations in this group has been what are our spheres of influence over city policy and city programming. And and it isn't always felt, I know, and I know we've been wrestling over this as a group, but I want to say this to you really profoundly, how grateful we are for your participation and time. And I know you have other things with your time. So we're very sorry to see you go. And I really want to thank you for your contribution.
Thank you. I've learned a lot from everyone here too. Thank you.
We will miss you, and maybe we'll see you in June. So we'll not goodbye.
We'll do it again.
Member Member Eisen and I share sort of a background in sort of substance use treatment and caring for people with addictive disorders. And I just want to say thank you, Member Eisen, for your time here, but also sort of opening up the world of substance use treatment, schooling me and schooling our teams on how it all fits together in San Francisco. You have been weathered many ups and downs with the city in the last couple of years, and we are very grateful also for calm and smarts you bring to this group in particular and the city writ large. So thank you, both of you.
We were able to meet in person sooner because,
Much nicer.
yeah, and like they're cool people. We get stuff done and you just get to get even greater benefit from learning from people. But thank you for your kind words.
You are both will be receiving certificates of appreciation, which are not ready today.
Not edible.
They're low calorie.
Fiber, high fiber.
High fiber. The other person I want to acknowledge, and I just want to confirm this is. Okay. So a really key member of this group is missing today, Chair Lassar, who intends to be stepping down from the committee. I think probably many and maybe not everyone knows. And just to say some words about her in absentia, Monique Chair Lassar has really held so much for this group and really tried to be, and I think succeeded to be a convener, a voice of positive energy amidst sometimes conflict, sometimes real complexity. And I have personally so enjoyed working with her. I have found her to be sort of our port in some of the storms and have really deeply appreciated her commitment, particularly while serving also in a busy professional role. And so I feel very lucky to have had her in the service of being chair. And I'm sorry she's not here. She's going to be out for a few months from her role, taking some time. So she, I know, is sorry to not be here with all of you. I assume we'll receive a letter about her resignation. So I think it's unlike maybe some of our other bumps, sorry. I think this is final and true. So She will also get a certificate of appreciation. But just really thank you to all of you who have served and are continuing to serve. I can't actually imagine how much of a burden this is for people who have busy other jobs. And so the city's really lucky, and I am really grateful, and our staff is really grateful. So thank you very, very much. That's all I got. I'm gonna leave, but I'll be back. Okay. All right. I'll see you all in an hour.
We'll make sure Monique hits that recording.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll notify her. I made a note to myself.
Next slide, please, Kate. Okay. So members of the public who wish to comment on this agenda item, which is discussion item 2, the MHSF Director's Update, are invited to participate in 3 ways. First, I'll call on those who are here in person. Then I'll call on participants who are joining online. If you are participating online and would like to comment, please raise your hand and Kaylee will call on and unmute you when it is your turn. The same for those who are joining by phone. If you're joining by phone and would like to comment, please follow these instructions. But press pound and then pound again. Dial *3 to line up to speak. A system prompt will indicate that you have raised your hand. And then please wait until the system indicates that you have been unmuted, and then you may begin your comments. So all public commenters will have 2 minutes, and I'll give you a 30-second warning when your time is near completion. Is there anybody in person who would like to comment?
Just want to acknowledge.
Or can you come up to the little pod?
Just want to acknowledge the complexity of this work group. You know, and especially the interface between government and DPH. And the integration of substance abuse and mental health with case management at my background at the forefront. And the individuals that have been participating and are leaving, that it's very impressive, complicated, and important work that we've done.
Thank you. Anybody else in person who would like to make a public comment? Anybody online who would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now and Kaylee will unmute you. I do not see any raised hands. Maybe close public comment.
Phone, nobody.
I would suggest we close public comment.
Public comment is now closed. And we will now move to discussion item number 3, the proxy budget update.
Morning, work group members. I'm Kelly Kirkpatrick. Nice to see you all in person. I'll be giving an overview of the Prop C budget and an update on the timeline of where that is at, and just a brief refresher about what Prop C is, how much money DPH gets from it. So I'll move on to the next slide. Slide. So the Prop C budget, also known as Our City, Our Home initiative, or referred to as OCO, is the primary funding source for new mental health SF initiatives. DPH receives approximately 25% of Prop C funding for behavioral health services designed to serve people experiencing homelessness. Prop C is facing a significant revenue decline because it is a single source business tax. So revised projections are approximately 20% lower than in prior years when the initial spending plan was adopted. So what we really focused on, and I'll share with you what we did during the department phase of the budget, was really utilize one-time savings to see through the proposed spending plans as initiated 2 years ago. So you'll see here for this fiscal year 22-23, our allocation of Prop C, our 25%, is about $87.5 million. And then next fiscal year, our spending plan annualizes to about $100 million. dollars to maintain the service levels we had originally proposed. Now, the OCO committee uses different categories for their spending than the IWG uses for your mental health SF kind of programs. And so I tried to show here, and I'll have another slide later, but the treatment beds equals treatment beds. So there's about 25.7 million this year for the new beds and facilities. Within the Prop C spending plan, there's a category called assertive outreach. Within that is a street crisis response team. So within that 28 million is about 12 million for SCRT. I have another slide detailing it. I'm just trying to show you kind of a crosswalk. Our case management services, the Office of Coordinated Care, and then drop-in services. There is also.
Sorry. I'm just confused because I thought I heard you say 12 million.
It is. So like.
Sort of outreach, but it says 20.
Yep. So I'll go to the next slide. So there's 28 million for this category.
Well, within that 28, she means 12.
Yeah, but it's just
So
an
in
actual
actual-
street crisis response team there next to
It
28.
just says included in there. Sorry. So
Oh,
domain-
included. I'm not reading.
I know.
Print. Okay, got it.
I know it's so much detail and confusing. So I have a next slide. There's about $66 million within this $87 million plan that is exactly the mental health SF domains, and I have it for you. But just know that there's about 90 growing to 100 million of other spending. It includes largely overdose prevention is funded in here, as well as the street overdose response team, the FACS program. I can never remember what that acronym stands for, but it's the physical health and behavioral health and permanent supportive housing is also in there. So it's not technically a domain, but it is funded by Prop C. Yes.
So this is purely Prop C.
But just Prop C.
Count any other like general fund or federal match. And then is the behavioral health portion of Prop C used as part of the federal match for drawing down Medicare? Is it eligible to be used?
It is eligible to be used. I don't know in how many instances we are drawing it down as a match. There is some CalAIM, ECM, enhanced case management and community support kind of offsetting and or matching that we're using, but this is largely just funding new non-Medi-Cal initiatives is my takeaway.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about non-CalAIM state funding for the state revenue that we're pulling.
So it's for like substance
Yeah.
service, like strictly substance use.
I mean, we definitely are, but I just don't know.
Most of these programs, like of the beds, they're funding completely the expansion of the beds. in there.
But
There's
then
no
will be
additional-
revenue generated.
Some programs might become one, like our goal is to have the TAY program become Medi-Cal eligible. Our goal is to have the crisis stabilization unit become Medi-Cal eligible, but many of the others are not
Mhm.
in the bed program.
Right, well, I know step downs are.
Yep.
Could I ask just the new one-time uses as a Tenderloin Center?
Yep, we funded during this fiscal year about $10 million to continue the Tenderloin Center for 6 months out of Prop C. All right, let's move on to the next slide, and hopefully I'll get into more detail that makes more sense. But I wanted you to see the takeaway there is there's $90 million of Prop C money for behavioral health programs, of which about 60 million is for the direct MHSF 4 key domains. So the Prop C budget that we propose for next fiscal year and the fiscal year after continues the investment plan approved as a part of last year's budget, despite these revenue shortfalls, because we utilize one-time funding sources to maintain the service levels. It's unspent money from prior years and money we had reserved, knowing that there were likely to be reductions. There was no new programming proposed due to these projected revenue shortfalls. We did update program costs and timelines to reflect revised implementation plans based on either construction for something like the crisis stabilization unit or knowing RFP timelines for the behavioral health component of the FACS program. So some things might look like they dipped a little, but that was just to better align with our implementation timeline. The intended program service levels are still maintained in the department proposed budget. We do assume a cost of living increase with the regional inflation, which is about 3% in the Prop C budget as well. Next slide. This is what you all know. This is your bread and butter. So this was me trying to distill down for the Prop C committee kind of all of the work that you're all focused on, that is funded by Prop C. So
I got this tattooed on my.
exactly.
It's a good thing you're continuing then.
So, implementing the focused justice involvement and 5150 work of OCC, expanding our residential care and treatment beds. And we've actually accomplished this. We've opened over 350 of our 400 bed goal, which is 90% of the way towards that goal. We're working to implement the mental health service center, as you all are aware. SCRT, overdose prevention, VAX program, launching the behavioral health component, and then expanded peer navigation and behavioral health services for the teen transgender clients will be expanding over the coming year. And the next slide is just the high level overview. So you'll see, who has this? Who's in charge of this slide? Oh, okay.
You need to go back.
You'll see that 87 million. So if you go to 22, 23 approved and you go about 5 lines down, you see 87.1 million. That was the number I showed you on the first slide. So then if you look over to the next column, the proposed budget, 23, 24, there's the 98 million. Thank you, Kaylee. Wonderful. And then the slide over would be the second year of the budget, 104.7 million. So that's growing by inflation and just matching implementation. Said we were going to do 20 Soma Rise beds. It's keeping 20 Soma Rise beds. So it's maintaining that. You'll see below in the sources funding, we have been able to match, present a balanced budget by utilizing those one-time sources. So there's 30.4 million. This year we're using in one-time sources to balance. And then the next year, 20 million and 26.5 million. But basically that's our structural shortfall. Our spending plan is about $25 million more expensive than the projected revenues. And we're planning to use one-time sources in the near term. But in the near future, there might have to be a right sizing of the spending plan to better match the significantly lower revenues.
Question.
Mhm.
For the drop-in services, does that include, as part of the department prevention plan, they talked about, the department talked about wellness hubs?
Wellness hubs are not funded in the Prop C operating
Okay,
budget.
so those drop-in services are not the wellness hub.
No, they are, there's about $1 million for a specific, no, $2 million for a specific drop-in. Sorry, I'm like trying to reorient myself. Drop-in services is shelter-based behavioral health, so $2 million for a roving team. It includes $4 million for the mental health service center expansion, the expansion of hours of OBIC and BHAC. $800,000 specific TAY mental health services, which includes staffing at the Dimensions Clinic, and then $1 million for the transgender mental health initiatives, including as well, some of the Dimensions clinic staff. So those are the 4 programs nested into that drop-in services line.
I just want to ask, my understanding was that Prop C overall was about 300 million.
Correct.
I know there's variations, but per year. So if we get a quarter and it's about 100, then the math, that's more like 400. With Prop C, is that because it has actually turned out to be more like along the lines of 4 million that we're getting from Prop C, 400 million, sorry.
It's the opposite. It was
Right, yeah.
closer to 400 and now it's closer to 300. There's about a 20% decline.
Yeah, I know it started off stronger
Yeah.
too, on top of it just.
So is
economy
the
going-
percent
but-
DPH going up?
Yeah, but that still don't understand, because then it's, if we're at more like 300 now for Prop C, then how are we getting 100?
Well, we're getting 75 million. So Prop C revenue mental health, right under the blue line. The actual revenue is closer to 75
I
million.
was thinking total mental
Mhm.
spending was the all Prop C. Oh,
Nope. And so then we're using those one-time sources of about 30 to 26 million to kind of plug that hole. I'm happy to get up and point if useful.
One-time sources, got it, yes.
I have another
Okay,
question.
thank you.
Kelly, just picking up on Vidka's question, and then you're saying, having to sort of recalibrate and right size. Would it make sense for us to have a budget presentation specifically on this question of other revenues that are supporting
Yes.
these programs? That might be interesting to look at, like, is it, like, as we're building Mental Health San Francisco, and which includes some revenue generating programs. Modest.
Yep.
Okay.
But I mean, thank you for asking that, because it's been a concern of mine ever since and others, ever since we started, because even when we were back designing this ballot measure, when it was a ballot measure, there was an expectation that there would be a revenue source. It was not expected to be just all from Prop C. And I have concerns that we're not wholly, but most, very reliant on Prop C for a number of reasons.
Almost all the new initiatives,
Right.
SCRT, all the 360 bed expansion, the OCC case management and care coordination and triage are all funded by Prop C.
And it's come up before where we've talked about like, okay, we need to, explore other revenue sources and see what else is out there and start planning for that.
Some state grants.
So I think we do need to have that conversation. Maybe I don't know if it's with Dr. Cunnins or who, but Valerie, for a topic, I think, for this group. Thanks.
I would assume some of the block grant dollars go towards.
There's definitely some grants, but it's
Go
not
towards,
the
like-
bulk of all this. I mean, $60 million of new stuff has been funded by Prop C for the mental health SF domains, of which half of it is basically the residential care and treatment beds.
And it feels like we were going to get that anyway, not by any means take it for granted, but that would have happened without mental health SF, that we'd have that funding for those programs. And mental health SF, at least in how it was, thought of in the beginning, was supposed to not just be about coordination and reform, but also about increasing resources. And so we really haven't done that.
I think I'm hearing two things. There's like, what other sources might we be drawing on? Some grants, maybe some Medi-Cal drawdown for the expanded programs, and maybe an understanding of kind of what our backbone service kind of funding levels are for BHS. And then I think there's the question that Member Fields has also brought up in the past. What are ideas and brainstorming for additional revenue sources, which I feel like is to the committee and, executive and, leadership to be creative and think about that. But also, if we wanted to do kind of a backbone BHS budget, plus how does Prop C layer on top of that, I think we could definitely do that in the future.
No, I'm trying to get my head around this conversation. Most for services that are actually provided under mental health SF, that are directly provided to clients of the program, is there any third-party reimbursement, Medi-Cal or any other third-party reimbursement? And how is that reflected in the budget?
What I'm showing you here is just the Prop C funding for the expansion under mental health SF. It does not include, so maybe if we go to slide 7, maybe 2 ahead from here. Okay, this is showing you the shortfall, but this is showing you, okay, so here are the 4 key domains of mental health SF.
Okay.
And here's in the upcoming year, about 61.6 million
Okay.
for those domains. And so what I don't have here. So for the 4 million of mental health service center and access program, the expanded hours at BHAC and OBIC, those are just the expanded hours. It doesn't include the baseline budget for BHAC. This is just the expansion under mental health SF. Again, the 10.9 million for care coordination and case management is just the expansion of OCC and related case management, not our existing case management, but like services and programs. These are just the expansions under the mental health SF umbrella.
I'm still lost. I still don't understand. Is there a bigger picture with revenue that is not reflected in any of the slides?
MHS's budget is approximately $600 million.
I understand that.
Prop C represents 100 million, so 1/6 of that. So I am not showing you 5/6 of the BHS budget because it is not an expansion under mental health SF, but it is important context that I recognize is missing in this conversation. Mhm.
And just to stick a pin in it regarding the Soma Rise, which is a tiny portion of this, actually, it is a benefit under, it's a carved in benefit under the health plan.
Just now, though, we haven't realized the
Yeah,
revenue of it yet.
Right, but
Yeah.
just sort of going forward, particularly in a period of shortfall. And it's hard to draw, but given it's probably, the system is set up in Epic and it may actually be a way to, on the back end, pull revenue in from the health plan.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that with CalAIM, which expands the number of programs that we in San Francisco have provided, that our ability to generate revenue from some of them, so Soma Rise. And then the other Prop C funded program that's part of Mental Health SF, besides Soma Rise, besides the Drug Sobering Center, is our managed alcohol program, which received funding from as part of the Prop C budget and is now going to be a CalAIM revenue generating program. So I think it'd be really complicated to do, but I think we could try and look at the like Kelly said, the expansion of programs and how much additional revenue we're able to draw down because of that, as well as these big state grants that we've gotten to support more infrastructural than ongoing funding, but to support some of our mental health SF programs.
So I don't like to stick my hands in this because it gets very messy and it's very hard to kind of sort through, but
And we slice it so many.
thank God there's someone like Kelly to
We slice it
that.
so many different ways, right? And so I'm trying, what this is highlighting is that mental health SF legislation and Prop C both kind of came into being at the same time. And so the expansion of programs mandated under mental health SF leveraged Prop C funding to make those expansions happen. And so that is why we're focused on Prop C, because it is the main bulk funding source of the new initiatives under mental health.
I kind of think of it as mental health SF sort of 2.0 is for us to look and see what sort of sustainability, what's sustainable in the future, given that we expect Prop C to sort of level out in terms of revenue, but the state also incentivizing us to implement new programs, which are very aligned with mental health in San Francisco, which the state will now give us more traditional reimbursement for, different than Prop C, which is just local.
So timeline of the Prop C funding spending plan. So on April 1st, we submitted our revised Prop C spending plan for, they call it the mental health allocation. And that's what I presented to you today. The numbers were the kind of department phase of the budget. On April 24th, OCO committee members made recommendations to the mayor's office in response to our spending plan. And sorry, there's a link there should you want to. But I would say the big takeaway is that they recommend continuing the implementation and spending plan as we had proposed. They recommend prioritizing funding for bringing treatment beds to scale. They did recommend adding 6 more co-op beds, so $2.6 million of one-time funding, drawing from our one-time funding balances, and about $110,000 of additional operating funding. They also recommended expanding behavioral health services at the Youth Navigation Center. No funding recommendation tied to that. And otherwise, it was just prioritization of investments for LGBTQIA, and kind of recommending kind of some policy recommendations as well. So if you want to dig into those. So the mayor has been contemplating both the department submission of the budget as well as the OCO committee members' recommendations. On June 1st, the mayor will submit her proposed budget to the board. And then during the month of June, as many of you are fully aware, the board will deliberate, amend, and update the budget. And then in July, they will pass the budget, and Prop C will be a part of all of those deliberations rolled into the $13 billion budget deliberations they're undertaking in June and July. That is it for my presentation. One thing I do also want to note that isn't on this page, and I forgot to mention, is that There is about $100 million of one-time funding for building acquisition that we have. And I left the slide out that we have planned to help us purchase buildings, including building out the redevelopment at Treasure Island for residential step-down beds. So there's one-time funding allocated for that. We are also looking to purchase buildings for the remaining TAY program, the dual diagnosis program, and a permanent location for the managed alcohol program, really trying to utilize one-time funding to buy buildings to stabilize our in-county capacity. We have purchased the Hyde Geary property up between Hyde and Geary, which will become our crisis stabilization unit in 2024. So there is that component of one-time funding, but budget people really are often focused on the ongoing operating funding. And so that's the bulk of what I showed you here.
And I'm sorry, that the 100 million, that's out of Prop C or
That's DPH's.
that's separately?
It's a Prop C we have $100 million of unspent, basically because of the litigation about Prop C. We had a whole fiscal year that we weren't able to spend. And so we've carved out that 100 million to try and acquire and build buildings to make locations in the city.
Are you looking at any boarding care with that?
We are looking, so we have been able to expand our boarding care through contracting at this time, but we would love to relocate beds in county if possible, or preserve. There's also a lot of state money, and maybe I could do a deeper dive on this in a one-on-one, but the state is also throwing up a lot of money for one-time building acquisition, like in the billions across the state. So we've been applying all over the place for a program they call BCHIP. I also don't remember what that acronym stands for. There's a CCP program that's also hundreds of millions. There's a bridge housing program that's also hundreds of millions. So we've been throwing our hat in the ring for all of those. We've been able to draw down. We got some BCHIP funding for Hyde Geary. We've received some CCE money for boarding care preservation funding. So I apologize for not including that here, but I could do a future kind of discussion, maybe in that future budget conversation, all the state sources we're looking to draw down for these one-time acquisitions in parallel with the Prop C funding. I will say that 100 million of Prop C funding could be used instead of acquisitions to help shore up our shortfall in the future should decision makers want to use it to maintain our spending plan.
No.
I really hate to ask this question, but is there a possibility that that money could be clawed back for something else other than mental health SF domains
Unless
and services?
legislatively changed, it is a voter approved initiative, so it's pretty cemented.
It could be reallocated to other Prop C
It has to be spent within the mental health
Okay.
category, which has to go to DPH.
OCA would have to approve that, and they've been very like what the letter of the law.
And I think the voters and or the board by supermajority would have to kind of.
Well, that's
amend it.
reassuring. I was just curious.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To try and make budget easy to understand, but I recognize it's confusing, but I'll work with Valerie on maybe a deeper dive into the
I just want to
broader
know
BHS budget.
Our beds are you getting us? That's all I needed. I don't need to know all the.
We've accomplished, I think, 99 under the, in county, maybe closer to 60 of them are in county on our bed dashboard.
Yeah, and I want to know how we're gonna get more. And
Are we not able to get more because of the building, or is it because what is the difficulty?
There are definitely barriers to buying buildings in county.
There's a lot of, we know, I'm always into that.
Is it a reimbursement rate? So there's no in-county providers?
Well, I would say there's the real estate constraints in that we have to find the right building with the right size and the right neighborhood with an owner that wants to sell it at the right price, that we can rehab at the right price. Like all of those pieces have to align. And then there's always the ongoing operating funding. So unless we have more dollars ongoing, buying buildings, unless it's to preserve existing beds, won't necessarily expand capacity.
So I think, it's been an ongoing request, or not a request, but an ongoing kind of feeding into this group by, I think, one of the I guess, the public, that what about the Laguna Honda? There's 1,200 beds. So why are we not looking into that? I mean, we probably don't have to rehab too much other than this, you know, if we're looking at properties, spaces, I mean, Laguna Honda's already existed and it was functional. So there's 1,200 beds there. So I'm not understanding, and I think the one particular person that from the public has consistently brought that up. And I think it's worth at least looking into. You know, I mean, the property has been existed for a long, long time and it's a lot of spaces. So maybe that some of that money, instead of, I think what member Lipton was saying is, can we have that other money can go somewhere else or do something else within the mental health SF? Yeah. So.
I think one, and we have thought about that, like what existing buildings do we have that we could repurpose? I think one of the constraints is programmatically, a lot of our mental health SF programs are kind of small and have programs. So we need 10 TAY beds where we have TAY that can both, you know, has a harm reduction model where people can bring their pets and bring their belongings and, but not be in the heart of the traffic of this Tenderloin and Selma, and has to have separate egresses then. So it's not like we could take a 200-bed building and just put 10 beds here, 20 beds there, 30 beds there, because all of the programs have different potentially licensing and programmatic kind of concerns. So that kind of makes us a little more like Goldilocks when it comes to the like building acquisition, at least in our experience. But we do recognize the urgent need to get this capacity. So we are trying to strike that balance of like, let's get it done and make things work, and trying to make sure that we're aligning with licensing and programmatic kind of building needs for programs.
To the Laguna Honda issue, it seems like it's probably as complicated as it would be to kind of reconfigure the space for multiple different kinds of uses. It's still probably cheaper than acquisition and rehabbing another space. And so is it possible?
So we go visit.
Yeah, is it, yeah, I've never heard that thing. Is it possible to bring home, like to have a larger, which is why I asked about the revenue model for board and care. Would it be possible to bring home to county more folks who are in board and care out of county? Who could be situated in Laguna Honda? If Laguna Honda could be reconfigured, again, sometimes reconfiguring is cheaper than buying and then needing to reconfigure something anyway. I have no idea, but I think it's a great point if you have 1,200 beds.
1,200.
Well, that's, and that's why,
There's a whole bunch of other.
yeah, that's what it comes down to. Is it possible if it's maybe that revenue from the way board and care is paid for doesn't really cover costs of providing any services, which is a whole different issue.
Right. We patch most of the board and cares, even the ones out of county over SSI. It's anywhere from like $75 to $125 per day additional patch for board and cares per bed. And it's cheaper to operate out of county than it is in county. So you'd have to go on the higher end of that patch to relocate beds in county.
Though to that point, what I had understood some years back from placement team that we work very closely with, that in fact, the county was reimbursing in-county boarding cares at lower rates than out of that county boarding cares. And that was why they were closing in droves. And so in fact, placements out of county haven't actually historically been cheaper. They've cost us more. And so I know
Because they
that,
tend to be newer, I think, than some of the legacy boarding care patches that we've.
and
the older
so they
buildings,
were getting reimbursed like $27 a day in county, while out of county beds were getting twice as much. And so the boarding care operators were rightfully very angry and just basically giving us the boot. I think that what I did want to come is the bed. So lots of this is based on lots of what we're, the dashboard is based on the bed optimization report, right? That I think that folks, even with the original bed optimization report, were very confuddled by the methodology. And Dr. Payne, did inform us last meeting that a new bed optimization report is being done. However, again, it raises, it would be good if we understood the methodology Because we're gonna spend one, it was based on the fiscal year, I guess, 2021 or 21, 22.
The next one will be.
The next one.
The last one was not.
Yeah, the last one was not. I have it, but the current one is, which is again, not gonna get us the information that we need if you're basing it on a COVID year. It came out in,
2019, I think, and it was based on like 17, 18 data.
yeah, and then we got it June 2020, it says, but yeah. And so we're again, not gonna have an adequate bed optimization report. And I'd be curious to know also the methodology. Because I think if we get information that is more reflective of the conditions on the ground, I think that our dollars and time are going to be spent much more wisely, and it would better inform any plans, of course, like maybe, for utilizing, say, Laguna Honda or any other properties we have. And so I think that was just, again, a concern that I wanted to bring back up, because I don't think we got an answer last time about it.
Yeah, so, and Valerie, what was the plan for new beds and facilities coming to talk to us about the plan for the bed optimization?
The plan is that team is working to figure out their next steps, I think with you as well. So you may know more about this than me. And I think there's some actual direct outreach they're intending to do with members.
With members, okay.
Yeah.
So not reporting back at this meeting.
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, no, they're working with the controller's office on targeted kind of provider feedback on the methodology. Some of you as providers may be asked to provide feedback to make sure that the methodology is explained and understood before, and get feedback on it before we actually endeavor to go through with the analysis. So we did take back your all's feedback after the last IWG meeting. We took it to Dr. Pading, and we took it to the controller's office, who he's working in partnership with. And they will be doing some provider outreach on the methodology itself before we do it.
And so the controller will be doing this bed optimization report.
It is we are contracting with Mosemtech, who did the original, but also doing it in coordination with the controller's office, who is helping to shepherd kind of our bed flow analysis across DPH as a system. So it is Dr. Pading, the controller's office, and Mosemtech all working together for a revise of the Mosemtech study.
And knowing
what-
what's helpful,
yeah.
that the control, because I think as far as like accountability of the public.
Yep.
To the public, having the controller.
And the analysis team on the controller side who's helping us is very smart. And we took all the concerns that you all shared about the base year using 2021. And I forget, there was an additional concern. And so we did share that with them as they're developing the methodology with Mosemtech and Dr. Pading.
All right, so if there are no more comments or questions from members of the committee, let's move to public comment on discussion item number 3.
Great, thank you. Members of the public who wish to provide comments on this agenda item, which is discussion item 3C budget, are invited to participate in 3 ways. So we'll first call on the people who are here in person, and then the participants who are joining online. So if you are joining online and would like to comment, please raise your hand, and when it's your turn, Kaylee will call on and unmute you. Similarly, those joining by phone, if you would like to comment, please follow these instructions. Press pound and then pound again. Dial *3 to line up to speak. A system prompt will indicate that you have raised your hand. Please wait until the system indicates that you have been unmuted, and then you may begin your comment. Please note that you will have 2 minutes to speak, and I will give you a 30-second warning when your time is nearing completion. So is there anybody joining us in person who would like to make a public comment? Can you please come up to one of the little microphone pods? There's one bigger than one on the other. Thank you. I will start your time when you start speaking.
Oh, okay, well, I just wanted to say, so glad I walked in when you were talking about Laguna Honda, because I actually volunteered there, and forever I've been like wondering why that amazing iconic building is sitting empty when they are not allowed to tear it down. when it comes to having separate programs, all the units are finger units. They can work individually. You can have multiple different kinds of programs. When I was there, I saw people that had their pets there with them. There is no reason not to use this amazing asset, except that the city, I think the city just doesn't want to hire city workers. That's all I can think of, because this place is amazing. It needs asbestos abatement. That's the only thing that's been holding it up, and that can be done unit by unit, ward by ward, you know, because it's the old ward system. I mean, this would be such a game changer if the city would just use its assets instead of continuing to buy. It's like the fact that right now, bunch of money comes in, bunch of new programs are just layered on top of the ones that we already have. I understand that there's like 200 different programs in the city right now that nobody knows who they are or what they do. I mean, that's a big problem. I feel like the controller's office needs to give us a report on all the different programs that are available and what they're doing, because, you know, the city has a really big history of, you know,
About 30 more seconds.
handing out contracts, you know, no bid contracts. That's why the last director of public health had to leave, because she was giving out contracts to her partner. And we don't know what for. And the fact that all these contracts got handed out before you guys could even review any of them is just insane. Okay, there needs to be a stop to this madness, really. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public in person who would like to give in-person comments? Doesn't look like it. Let's go to.
Anybody online who would like to provide a public comment, please raise your hand. Not seeing any hands raised. Haley, are you seeing any raised hands? Recommend we close public comment.
Okay, public comment is for item number 3 is now closed. And I think we're at time for a 5-minute break. So I'm going to ask the people return by 10:50. Let Annie or me know if you need help getting into the restrooms. And which I think require, or did you fix it so that I do it? No, okay. So yeah, we can help people get into the restrooms. And so we'll take a 5-minute break. We want to leave enough time for our session. So how do we go to the bathroom?
Thanks for your.
Oh, thanks, I tried.
That, yeah.
Thank you. All the restroom lines.
Daisy. I'm worshiping.
Right. Thank you for.
Oh, Denise?
Yeah. Follow the parade. Jack up a tag at the front. I think it's his slide.
Good, how are you? To see you.
So this is your last. Yeah, and just tell me that there's the.
Oh, you
So
mean,
it was.
you were told that they reached out to me and I said,
Right, so I was on a list. Yeah. I think that's not.
don't worry about it. As long as we got it.
So, I think it's a lot of things. Apologize.
Oh,
What's the chairperson today?
no problem. We have a sub.
I'm here.
To get in, I almost didn't get in, because like the person at the front desk is saying, you know, oh, we don't know that, I can't take you upstairs. Who's the point person? I'm like, who's the point person?
So that's good feedback. So
Because normally what happens in these meetings is they're supposed to be like, all of the material is supposed to be available to the public and the public should have it. So this is, I don't think this is a good building. Because unless you know exactly the room number and everything.
So we can work with, that's good feedback. This is the second time we've done in this building, so I think they're still learning about the group and take that back to the front desk.
Yeah, but to have any of these public meetings, not only do they need to be physically posted around the city, but the materials need to be available. I talked to my brother
Yeah.
last night.
And we can make materials of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
so he just, sorry, I missed this.
It's, we're happy that you're here. I think
That's fine.
we're all getting used to being in person.
Yeah.
But, they haven't had any, in-person public meetings here in 3 years, so I
Yeah.
assume there's just getting used to it. But I
Yeah,
will-
I was like, yeah, I wanna road.
Well, this is where the Department of Behavioral Health is, so it's where all of our team is, and so it's significantly, it allows us to be more available for the public here at the come and be present. But it's a funky building.
Hey, this is Sarah. I'm calling about my bicycle.
Yeah.
I got a message to call. Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah. It seemed to be your automatic thing.
No problem. I have to get a new chair. We can,
Too.
yeah, replace members back.
It is. It's a clerical error. It's a lot less than I thought, so at least there's that.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it in a minute, but.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. Considering we did tech yesterday and this. morning.
Yeah.
It's just like. Okay, nothing else goes wrong.
I will. This is Sarah. Calling you back. Jesus. Okay, wait a minute. How much more money is that gonna cost? Which is not that bad on itself, it's just like. One more.
I like our good friends, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like.
Oh my God. I mean, this is starting to get to like $800 or $900 for me. I'm just not sure at that point whether it's worth it. You have any thoughts about that?
It's.
No.
Oh,
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, like, my side. Okay. So I just have to authorize you to do the four.
I always say.
I wouldn't want them to go to waste. Just for you.
I'm gonna be like, come on, dude. We're gone. Come on, dude. I'm a day late on my.
Well, it's busy now.
Yeah. But I moved in there.
Oh, well, let's do the $60 round.
My mailbox was full of like.
That sounds good. Hey, thanks so much. Okay. Yeah.
I'm on the dial,
So 100%. Thumbs up. It's fine.
Okay, we're gonna convene.
Folks, let's bring it in.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We had 8 to start with.
We have 6 right now, 7 for a quorum.
All right, we're a quorum. Right. So we are going to go on to discussion item number 4, which is the resolutions related to we drafted two resolutions, one related to the implementation working group in general and one to street crisis response team specifically. So just to give a little bit of background for members here and members of the public listening in and in person. These resolutions, I think, stem back to questions that have been raised, I think, pretty much since we convened as an implementation working group about the role of the IWG in giving input to programs and really the how we time that input that we can give with the domain staff who are working on implementation, and where the timeline, really the cadence really hasn't matched up well to our monthly meetings. And so these questions have come up along the way as IWG sometimes have heard about plans to implement when clearly they're a little farther down the road than I think IWG would have wanted. And then most recently, when IWG got an update from Director Cunnins, I believe, about changes to the street crisis response team being the first of the IWG domains, which was implemented. And after more than a year of our hearing reports about SCRT and seeing some data of SCRT, we learned that a change had been made to the makeup of the SCRT teams and also the departmental oversight of the teams. And so that I think prompted a number of questions from IWG members about the role of IWG and whether, if changes are made to what IWG perceives as sort of the legislated mandate of the mental health SF domains, whether those changes can be made without IWG input about the changes. So that's just some context. And let me, before I go on, would anybody want to add anything to that context? That's just my perception of how we got to the resolutions.
I suppose I should explain kind of where we are.
Sure.
Okay, so after the last meeting, Valerie had indicated that there were some concerns raised by the city attorney's office, and that the city attorney, as I understood it, wanted to have a chance to discuss this with the chair. As things evolved this month, it came down to having a conversation with a member of the IWG. And through emails, I guess I'll call them the gang of four who worked on the resolutions, which would be Member Hammer, Member Short, and
Eisen.
Oh, and Member Eisen. I volunteered or was volunteered to meet with the city attorney's office. So we had a phone call last week. Valerie, thank you very much for arranging this. And as it turned out, the city attorneys really only had about what I call three substantive comments in terms of the resolution. First, that the IWG should not be making statements of law or conclusions of law as to whether, and particularly in this case, whether the skirt team was being operated in compliance with the mental health SF ordinance. So they would like to, they asked that be deleted, indicating that if there is a determination as to whether the skirt team is operating in accordance with MHSF, that's the province of the city attorney's office to decide. Okay, so be it. Secondly, it was, they recommended that we kind of couch both of the resolutions in terms of our authority, which is to advise the department and the board and the mayor as to the, I wrote it down here, on the design, outcomes, and effectiveness of mental health SF, and that we couch the resolutions in those terms. And third, that the resolutions urge or recommend certain actions be taken as opposed to attempting to compel actions to be taken. And so the changes to the resolution, and there really only are two substantive changes, one of which was a deletion of a sentence that said in the resolution on the SPIRT team that the current program is not in compliance with the ordinance. They requested that be deleted. And that's really the only substantive deletion. There's a minor deletion, whereas a whereas clause was deleted because it duplicated the paragraph before. That's the paragraph that indicated the ordinance requires that the program SCRT operate under the Department of Public Health, but that was already in the first whereas clause. So the revised resolutions are pretty much the same as appeared last time, except on both of them, there's now a preamble on resolution number 1 that reflects the power and duty of the IWG to advise the department, et cetera. And in the second resolution, there's another on the sort of the therefore in furtherance of our duty to advise the department, et cetera, on the design and effectiveness of mental health. The IWG recommends and urges the following. So those are really the only major changes. The whereas clauses on the second resolution are pretty much unchanged. And that's kind of where we are.
So with no.
Oh, and this has been submitted to the city attorney, and the city attorney has approved the revised wording.
So for members of the IWG, that the revised wording was part of your preparation package. For members of the public, we have presented the key components of each resolution on the slide deck. So would you like to go through each one and just kind of confirm?
Well, I'll go through the first one and I'll let Member Short go through the second one. The first one was I think you referred to as general guidance, which is that the IWG urged the department and other departments proposing a change to a mental health SF service or program to notify the IWG for review and comment before implementing those proposed changes. If the change alters a program such that it's different from that described in the ordinance or alters the core components of a program as previously presented to the IWG. This is language that Member Hammer and I worked out, I guess now about 2 months ago. And
Worked on the original. I have questions about the revised as it is shown there, but yeah.
yeah, if you recall, I think the one area we got hung up on was the word material change.
Yeah,
So this was,
we worked that out.
so we worked that out, and this is the revised language.
And can I just ask for this? Because I'm not comfortable voting on a resolution that starts with ... and not a capital letter. As a former English teacher. Why does it say ... and then the.
Okay.
Not.
Okay, because what's not in the slide is the first paragraph that says the IWG has the power and duty to advise the Department of Public Health, specified city agencies, the mayor and the board of supervisors on the quote, design, outcomes and effectiveness of mental health SF established by section 15.104 of the administrative code. And then it says in order, close quote, in order to fulfill its duties, the IWG needs to be informed of proposed changes to mental health SF programs and services. And then it goes, therefore, ... the IWG urges.
But that's, the full language is in the document that you received. I just couldn't fit it on the slide.
It sounds like that was the city attorney's suggested language.
Yes.
The document sent
Mhm.
packet, it says resolutions April.
Yeah.
That looks like the
Let me-
one from
Let me check.
the previous month and the bits that the city attorney sent to, there.
Ooh, did I not?
What we got.
Let me double check.
That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing April and I'm seeing, it looks the same as the.
You're correct. Haley, can you?
So,
pull up
so the
actual
only
resolution
major
language?
change is really adding that first paragraph.
Okay,
Yeah,
Can you hold on for just a minute? Haley, would you please open up the
Actually,
resolution?
there are two changes.
Okay, hold on. Can you please open up the resolution document that has been revised, the full language of it, not just this, and we'll show that instead of the slide.
is that in our SharePoint?
That should, yeah, and I can, you should,
I'm glad about my notes.
yeah, apologies for that. So we'll do that. Do you want to, is there any more conversation?
That's actually good. That's actually a good question.
Okay, I will also be looking for it.
Okay.
And
So
the
in
first paragraph, which we're not looking at here, the first paragraph is taken right from the legislation.
from the ordinance, and then says in order to fulfill our duties,
No, that's an old.
IWG needs to be informed of proposed changes. Now, the resolution previously said that we resolved that a department shall notify IWG. The shall has come out, and now it says we resolved that we urge the department
Okay.
or other agencies.
And this is a minor point, but was there a discussion about instead of urge, like to use recommend, or was urge the?
We could use either word.
Okay.
He said either word would be fine. So if we wanted to recommend, we could say we recommend. If we wanted to urge, we could use urge, or as lawyers are fond to use. But we could urge and recommend.
Like.
I understand like the taking the shall out, that makes sense to me. Urge just seems like a little bit of a colloquial word, but maybe it's fine.
I'm fine with urge and recommend, or I'm fine with just recommend. It's either
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, so once we see that first paragraph, which, as Member Lipton said, is right from the ordinance. This is really the meat of resolution 1. With language approved by or sanctioned by the city attorney. So while we're waiting to be able to see that language.
There it is.
You said supposed to.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Because you're on.
It was too.
Okay. That's why I was like.
Okay, great. So are we, any concerns about this language and, or questions about this language? Member Gunn?
No, I just want to read it.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get that.
Yeah.
That last month's again.
If there are any grammatical mistakes, they are mine. I knocked this out really quickly, and I did it on the iPad, which was
Dr.
hard
Harris
to
gonna
do.
get a red pen out.
I'm liking this though. Let's go dot, dot, dot.
Oops, sorry.
Just lost it again. Oh, there it is.
My goodness.
It keeps changing. There. I can't tell from here, but in the first paragraph, wait a minute.
I think we got it out loud. Member Lipton read it. Okay. Any?
In the first paragraph, after the word.
Or, suggestions for changing, I'm fine with the urges if nobody else.
I think we should say demands.
Man. Great, okay, so, let's do a motion to approve, and then we'll go to, public comment.
We're gonna do each separate or together?
We're gonna do them separate.
Yeah, I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Second.
That's Sarah's first and Amy's second.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. And then before we vote. No, wait, do we vote?
Yep, you do public comment first.
So, we'll do public comment. Any public comment from the members of the public here in person? Thank you all for being. No, none. And so let's open it up then to the, on the phone.
Okay, any members of the public who are participating online or via phone, if you would like to comment on discussion item number 4, MHSF material changes and, MHSF material changes, please raise your hand and Kaylee will call and unmute you. The same with people on the phone. If you would like to make a public comment, please press pound and pound again, and then *3 to line up to speak. System prompt will indicate that you raised your hand, and then wait until the system tells you that you have been unmuted, and then you may begin to speak. Anybody online who would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand.
Have in person.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you could read it out loud for people that are listening over.
Or do you want me to?
You want me to read the whole thing?
Just the first resolution.
First, first resolution,
The first paragraph?
general guidance, the whole thing.
First paragraph, the IWG has the power and duty to advise the Department of Public Health, specified city agencies, the mayor and the board of supervisors on the quote, design, outcomes and effectiveness of mental health SF established by section 15.104 of the Administrative Code. In order to fulfill its duties, the IWG needs to be informed of proposed changes to mental health SF programs and services. Second paragraph. Therefore, the IWG urges that the Department of Public Health and any other department proposing a change to a mental health, to a MHSF service or program, notify the IWG for review and comment before its implementation if the proposed change either, parenthetical A, alters the program or service such that it is different from how it is described in the mental health SF ordinance, or parenthetical B, alters the core components of a program or service as previously presented to the IWG. This resolution is not intended to apply to routine changes to a program or service that are not described in parentheticals A or B above.
And just a note that there is a typo there. The close quotation mark before that, it should say mental health SF, and that's what the ordinance says.
Yeah.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kaylee, do you see that? If you can go to the first paragraph,
Uh-huh.
line in, right
Okay.
there, add in, yep, before the parentheses, quotes, sorry, base, that's it. Yeah,
Just SF.
yep, SF, just SF. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a good pickup. It was in what I was reading.
Okay.
Anyone else in person who would like to make a public comment? Anybody online, either joining by video or by phone, would like to make a public comment? See any raised hands? Haley, can you raise hands?
No.
Recommend we open this public comment.
Public comment is closed, so let's, do we want to vote by, the temperature check, the 1 through 5 voting? Yeah, okay, so we'll vote, by 1 through 5 voting, which I guess we'll do by voice vote or just
We could do by voice and by hand.
by voice?
Yeah, we need to verbalize it if you just want to hold up your hand, but 5 is,
Doing the one now, right? Not
Just one.
we can't,
Up or down?
we can vote up or down if you feel like, the temperature check is just to see if everyone is agreement, we move to a final agreement. Yeah, if you,
It's sort of a consensus approach.
It's in a slide.
yeah,
What are your thoughts?
I was, for the sake of time, also my main thing, so, okay, whatever.
I mean,
Haley, you go to the slide that has a temperature check?
The temperature check, we
that.
have been, but I think it was
Well, we just
also,
had a
it was
resolution.
also a
I think it's
video,
26.
I think.
Remember, we would do the poll.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to remind, so 5, the temperature check is just to see if we're ready to move to the resolution of this. 1 is no way I block this. 2 is I see issues and we need to resolve it. That stops the conversation. We have another round. If we get a 3, I see issues that can live with it. A 4, I'm fine with it as is, or I love this. 3, 4, or 5, then we go to a roll call vote. So if you, just to make it easy, if everyone would hold up your hand and say if you're a 1 through 5, and I'll see. Okay, so we got, hey, 5, we got,
We're doing it right
we got,
Wait, I want it.
so we got, you're a 1.
I want it.
Okay, so if you're 5, we got 5, 5, 5, 4, 5, 4, 4, 5. So there is, so it's not a roll call, so we don't have to keep the formal. It's just that everybody is above a 3. So the public record should know it's above a 3. All right. So we're ready to go.
Ready to go to resolution number 2,
Oh,
so.
we want to vote on it though?
We need to,
Now we're gonna vote. Now roll call. Did we already did a motion, right, before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Over the motions? Kaylee, did you get the motions?
Yeah, short and long.
Yep.
Okay. So now I'm gonna do a roll call vote and ask each member to vote yes or no to approve the resolution. So member Eisen,
Yes.
member Fields. Okay, we'll skip member Fields for now. Member Gonzalez,
Yes.
member Hammer,
Yes.
member Lipton,
yes.
member McGuigan,
Yes.
member Salinas.
Yes.
Member Short. Kidding.
Yeah.
Member Short was a yes. Member Wong.
Yes.
So we have 8 yeses and 0 nos, so we have a majority. So it passes.
All right. Next. Kaylee, would you go back to the full wording of the resolution for the second?
Document. Yep, that one.
Okay, I'm gonna read this one.
You gonna read the whole thing?
Read the whole thing. Go for it.
Yeah, I think I can handle it. Whereas,
There you go.
no, I'm probably not gonna read the whole thing. Thank you.
Sarah, let me, I overlooked something. There was one whereas clauses that I did edit as a result of discussing this with the city attorney's office. It's the whereas clause. It's the third. I know penultimate is second to last. I don't know what third to the last is.
And panel.
Try, never mind. The prior wording was, whereas no clear justification for these actions have been presented to the IWG, nor was a proper evaluation conducted that presented the case for these changes to be made.
Thank you.
Okay, that has now been, with the suggestion of the city attorney. It says, whereas no clear justification for these actions have been presented to the IWG, nor was an explanation, request for advice, or proper evaluation presented to the IWG before the changes were made.
Okay, that's what it says here.
Yeah.
So I've got the right version.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And you're cool with the changes?
Yeah.
And there were a number of whereas clauses where it refers to the IWG understands certain things
That's
rather than being just a straight factual statement.
right.
So it was based more on what we understand as opposed to something that we've diligently fact founded. If that's
Okay. Whereas the San Francisco Street Crisis Response Team was established as a requirement of the city's mental health San Francisco legislation, section 15.104 G3 of Administrative Code, Part 3, coordinated outreach teams and establishment of the crisis response team. This is all language from the crisis response team shall be a citywide crisis team led by the department that operates 24 hours per day, 7 days per week to intervene with people on the street who are experiencing a substance use or mental health crisis with the goal of engaging them and having them enter into a system of treatment and coordinated care. Whereas the Mental Health San Francisco Implementation Working Group submitted significant recommendations for how to evaluate the SCIRT teams as well Whereas gave input on the need for improvements on May 25th, 2021, and received no response or invitation to discuss the feedback. Whereas SCIRT has been consistently marketed to program participants, the public, city agencies, and funders as a quote, mental health crisis response team, consisting of trained mental health clinicians who use a quote, behavioral health approach. Whereas a unilateral decision was made to remove the trained mental health clinicians from the SCIRT vans with no notice or request for input from the IWG, as learned in the SF Chronicle on February 19th, 2023. Whereas the IWG understands that the team has been transferred from the Department of Public Health to the Department of Emergency Management, DEM. Whereas the IWG understands that SCIRT has been combined with another street team, SWIRT, with an expressly different set of purposes and goals. Whereas no clear justification for these actions have been presented to the IWG, nor was an explanation, request for advice, or proper evaluation presented to the IWG before the changes were made. Whereas the IWG understands that SCIRT vehicles currently have no personnel with mental health, trauma-informed de-escalation, or advanced behavioral health or diagnostic training, as they are dispatched to respond to mental health crisis calls. Whereas people experiencing homelessness and mental health and or substance use disorders tend to distrust institutional responses for a variety of reasons, including, but not limited to, past trauma, past abuse from police and other uniformed officers, symptoms of paranoia, historical pattern of racism and abuse against their community. Therefore, IWG, in furtherance of its duty to advise the Department of Public Health, specified city agencies, and the mayor and board of supervisors on the design and effectiveness of mental health SF, hereby recommends and urges the following. The SCIRT team be placed back under DPH rather than under DEM. That's one, sorry. Two, the SCIRT teams include mental health professionals on the vehicles with the training, experience, and credentials needed to respond to crisis on the streets from a behavioral health approach. Three, SCIRT continues as a standalone program and is not merged with any other program or department. And four, behavioral health services or designee performs an evaluation that includes the input of staff, clients, and the community, and presents a set of recommendations for improvements to the IWG to consider. I feel like I was
Doing good.
intelligent.
It's your bat mitzvah.
Yes, exactly.
All right, discussion.
All right, discussion about resolution 2.
I like it a lot.
You want a motion
Let's do quick hands.
or do you want to do a show of hands first?
5 is good, 1 is no.
Oh, before discussion.
Well, he could.
Is there any discussion?
I think everybody is like,
So 5 is agreement, 1 is not agreement. Okay, we have a 1, so we're gonna pause, and we have a 2.
Who's the one? Let's have some discussion.
So first of all, I mean, I disagree with a lot of these points in that we should be continuing to urge and recommend when we've already done that. Like, I don't see the point of this. I think the only point I agree with here is the fact that maybe it should be under DPH because that's clearly stated in legislation, but everything else is not in there. And I don't know what good it's going to do to continue to urge and recommend. We already urged and recommended something.
how did we do that? Because I'm not aware of that. If you can just explain.
We did that when we had the discussion about the SCIRT team and we.
But we didn't, as a body, have consensus to urge or recommend anything, as far as I know.
Well,
I think it said up there that there was this is before I got on, but that there's a recommendation that was presented in May of 2021 with no feedback, right?
No, that's different. That was feedback on the original model. And then they made all of these changes. And that's what this is.
Okay.
So I think we as a body, we make recommendations and we agreed that, yes, that we should have a behavioral health clinician on the team. We make that recommendation and then they decide whether they take that recommendation or not. I just don't know.
I understand that. I just don't feel that we've ever actually done that because we never even had a process before to do that, to weigh in with a recommendation. This is the first time
Yeah.
that we came up with all of us a resolution.
Haven't formally communicated it to the Board of Supervisors or to the mayor or to the other agencies that we advise.
You've been on this process like me, I think, from the beginning. And if you recall, the DPH would present various proposals. We would often give feedback in advance, and we'd go through the, first to 5, 1 to 5, up or down, and then commit to a vote to support. This was a change in which we were never given the opportunity. So in my mind, this is just continuing the same process that we've done with other elements. It's kind of, we are asked to give like a formal vote on new programs. This is essentially like significant program changes. So we done it before, we just never did it with this one. So that's why.
I thought we were all, there was consensus around like the fact that there should be a behavioral health clinician on the team.
I think coming back to the very first discussions that we had about the SCIRT team, that I think even meetings that Dr. Almeida had even before we even convened as a body, and what we understood, I mean, this is a pilot program, right? And that this would be a process of engagement with providers and community to improve the program, right? Because it was, and this is how it was presented, Dr. Almeida did diligently go about having meetings with various stakeholders. And we did have the extensive recommendations in May of 2021. I wrote them. And I think that at that point in time, we understood from Dr. Almeida that, this was an initial rollout, and that, after seeing the data, these recommendations would be considered for further improvements on this initial rollout. This was just pilot phase. And I think that what has happened now is that decisions happened, I don't know where, that completely took it out of DPH. If this program was back in DPH, then these recommendations that we have provided and that various stakeholders have provided would then be considered into the program improvement or, expansion. And I think that this action has taken it out of DPH has completely then overridden and kind of just squashed the entire community process that happened for a good amount of time. It's before it was implemented and ongoing for the first year, so for like 2 years, and so I think that I think that is why this resolution is important, even if that is our only point of agreement, because I think that is very central. Just that one thing brings it back into the purview then of DPH and to the opportunity for all these other things then to follow. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
My concern about resolution number 2 is that I think unfortunately, it's kind of closing the barn doors after the cows are gone, or whatever that expression is. My concern is that we voted on resolution number 1 to prevent what happened with street crisis response team and the changes happening again without IWG input. I have major concerns about how the changes to street crisis response team were made, and IWG being notified, I think late in the process, although I think it happened very quickly, but are not being able to give input based on the factors that were considered before the city departments and mayor's office recommended the changes to SCIRT. I had have concerns that we were not included, and that's why I am fully in support of resolution number 1. I think now that those changes have been made, and given what I think are complicated sort of programmatic, personnel, financial, interdepartmental, all those factors that came into the recommendations to change the makeup of the street crisis response team and the departmental oversight. We're too far down the road for me to feel comfortable voting yes on a resolution that asks to go back and really change the decisions that were made based on those factors that we never had a chance to discuss. So that's where I am with this.
Were you trying to say something, Amy, though, first?
I was just, kind of looking at the resolution too, and I think based on the resolution 1, I really feel that, I know that it had brought it to our attention, say, we are an advisory, committee, but, ultimately, so the decision, we don't kind of have any, I don't want to say leverage, but we don't have any kind of, well, I guess it's the word leverage, because if we are giving input on certain, recommendations, and it's just kind of not even considered, then what is the purpose of the advisory committee? And, it's already done. I think I understand what Member Hammer was talking about. It's like, it's already done. How do we, go back and stuff? But at the same time, moving forward, they took our advice and recommendations from the beginning to have all these other things. They said, okay, we want, what do you want? How do you want the sobering center? How do you want this and that? So they took it. But then when it got to a point when they started having it rolled out, then they kind of took it and redeveloped and then reinvented, restructured, and then come back and say, well, we did this. And then, it doesn't make sense. It's like they took it from the beginning. They took our advice and recommendations, but then as they went on, it just we're kind of almost like obsolete, I felt. It's a little bit disrespectful. And I think that's what Member Short said in several meetings, that, I feel disrespected, or, as a committee, what is our purpose? What's our intent? So that's,
Amy, can I ask for a point of clarification? You were in support of resolution 2, though. Is that correct?
I am in support of resolution.
Okay, so what you're saying is kind of, what I hear you saying is it's in keeping with 1, is the disrespect. And as a carry on to that, you are still in support of resolution number 2. Okay, thank you. Sarah?
They're perfectly consistent with one another. I'm not sure. Okay.
I'm just confused because we have some differences. I just want to confirm where everybody is.
Yeah, I was explaining my opposition to resolution number 2.
Oh,
even with my support of resolution.
no, I was putting both because they seem to be together. But
So I wanted to respond to Dr. Hammer's statement. As you yourself said, the process was very quick for them to reconfigure and pull the clinician things that they did, that half of what we don't even quite know. And so I don't really have any compunction about asking them to reverse course. I think if they did it so sort of, quickly and were able to figure it out the way they did to change it, I think that they could just as well do that to put it right. And I do feel very strongly about this issue of, the process part of this and how this happened, and everyone knows that, and what is being addressed by the resolution 1. But overall, that's not why I would, dig my heels in on this resolution. On this resolution, it really is about the very fact that if we're gonna go out there and say we provide mental health response on the streets, we gotta have mental health professionals as part of it. And if we were gonna have this program out there saying we're part of mental health SF, we provide mental health response, like, it's gotta be something that we have some input and oversight and understanding of. I frankly don't want to be sitting here as a member of this working group, hearing about all sorts of stuff that went on with this skirt team that has really nothing to do with us anymore. You know, that makes me very uncomfortable. And so I think that both of those things that we need, you know, we need a mental health component back, or we don't call it a mental health crisis team. Like, there's a whole other road that could be, we could go down here, or that they could decide to go down. And as long as we promote this as something that is going to be addressing mental health crisis on the streets, I think it's frankly irresponsible to, and worse, to not have that actual component. And I think that it will come back to bite us. I also believe that if that is the case, that it is providing behavioral health services and care, then it has to be under the Department of Public Health. It just makes absolutely no sense if they're gonna, even if they had our clinicians back on there and they were going out and saying, we're this team that goes and does behavioral health interventions on the street, to have DPH not be the one leading that up makes no sense. Again, you go back to the similar thing where stuff happens out there then, and DPH is held responsible, yet has, you know, no real actual ability to impact it, et cetera. So I guess I'm just reiterating how strongly I feel about this, and that it's, you know, I'm still feel gravely disrespected, still feel all of that is such a problem. But at the end of the day, what I worry about, what's, you know, foremost on my mind is that people are getting the help that they need, you know, that because you know the city right now, everybody, everybody, whatever your politics are, left, right, whatever, you know, people are clamoring for solutions to the homelessness and mental health crisis on the streets right now. Everybody wants to see people get help. And so therefore we're in the spotlight with programs like this. And when they see that little van rolling out there, people are watching it, right? They're reporting on it, they're complaining about it, they're talking about how great it was, et cetera. And so we have to understand that people want to see results, and they want to see real results. And if we're doing it wrong, without the proper, you know, skill set and training and all of that, we're blowing a huge opportunity, because believe you me, people will use it against us too. See, you know, we shouldn't even be out there trying to, you know, provide this help for people, because I mean, you've all heard this crap, right? Use as an excuse. So I'm going to go on like 30 more minutes.
And Hallie, okay. Agree with all the things you're saying, Sarah. Thank you for bringing it back to the people in crisis. I also want to, and I want to add, I think it's important for whether you're a commission, committee, work group, council, whatever you are that's in like a chartered advisory group. I think it's important to assert some level of independence. That's the whole purpose of it. Its purpose is to be an independent body that sometimes makes uncomfortable recommendations that the city has absolutely the authority to take or not take. And as we're really clear, that the city's going to take some of the recommendations, it's not going to take some of the others. Every one of us who's been here has been on some work group, has created some recommendations, some of which were probably taken, and everyone we voted on, all the kind of work groups where we came together to network, we voted on. In this case, for me, this is about like asserting that important independence. Yes, it's closing the barn door after the whole spot out, or the cows. horses and the cats. So yes,
Right.
I don't know whether it'll make a difference. I mean, I'd like to think it will, but I also think it is how you stake, like, it's how you give integrity to the process. Don't just say yes. Oh, well, you say, you did this thing. This group does not have consensus or doesn't approve of what was done. And you say that. So to me, that's what the issue is. It's like, yeah, you know, we are an independent body. And this is how we prove it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say that hasn't been said before, and actually I will say, as I said before, that I have real concerns about the process. And just like everybody else who served on this working group, it felt disrespectful of our time. It felt disrespectful for all the people, especially people like the two of you and Member Fields and many others who put so much time into crafting the legislation and really thought about it and who are really experts in the field. So I just want to start by saying that I think our main point of contention is really making a recommendation to go back to something. I think that one thing that I might recommend would be to say, like, let's look at the data. We have a new model. We're doing it differently now. What data do we have that it works? Because I think the other thing that I just want to make sure we're considering is the other crisis that we have in San Francisco and nationwide is a shortage of trained behavioral health clinicians, right? I mean, we have that is a crisis that's just like head on, coming up against the crisis in the increase in behavioral health concerns, both mild and moderate and very severe and disabling mental health issues among San Franciscans and the broader public. So that's a crisis, and I want to trust that that this new model might work and is worth looking at, which is having trained peers and trained fire department personnel respond to the immediate crisis, and that the better use of behavioral health clinicians might be what's happening now, which is our Office of Coordinated Care's Best Neighborhoods teams by following up with people after the SCIRT team responds in the crisis moment. I want to know if that's working, because that is the new model. It's not that DPH has no part of street crisis response team. It's that we have a follow-up role and not the immediate crisis role. So,
Hallie, are you suggesting, when I hear you say, like, that it's not to say that these can't happen, but you first want to look at the data and just make sure, because the horse's nails are out, just like put a pause to say, look at what's happening right now. Let's assess them.
is it working better like
Is it
this?
working better? And then maybe we go back.
Yeah, it's been going on for
Okay.
however many 4 months, but
No,
So,
not the change.
change 2 or 3, maybe 2. Yeah.
It's February, right? Did you had your hand up?
Pardon?
I thought you had your hand up.
No,
Oh.
I'm going to. You're very careful.
Reserve the right.
You bring up something that I've been thinking about, is that since the change to DM, I have stopped to get any data. I used to get the monthly report from Kathleen Silk on the data, and it has ceased to exist. Or if it does, it's not being disseminated. And so I think that the IWG members and other mental health professionals that have come to these various presentations, we all got on these listservs, that on the listserv, whatever, and I've been getting that data, they need to resume sending out that data to all the stakeholders and to the IWG. And we need that data in order to be able to assess, and that it would be to be a continued plan, like DM came, they declared this thing and that was it. There's no plan for any follow-up with us. It's, and so, I mean, even so, then they need to be on the agenda to come back, and they're no longer, as far as I can see, on agenda to come back and report to the IWG, despite this being a mental health SF program. I do think that, again, just this reiterating the integrity of our work and this body and accountability, and that if we're going to pass resolution 1, but then it's only a request to urge or to recommend, but then there's absolutely no follow-up, then there's really not a point to resolution 1 if that's it. So I think that resolution 2 is an attempt to have a follow-up and to see if there's a mechanism to have this body be taken seriously. If not, what's the point? And so I think that there's no reason, again, because if we're all coming together to craft recommendations because we have expertise working with folks, this target population, and to craft recommendations for programs to best serve those needs, but that can all be disregarded. Again, it's about the service delivery. And so are we here because we're actually committed to providing the best services to that population or not? And then being accountable to our clients. These are my clients. I'm accountable to my staff who day after day are out there. Sorry, it's my last meeting. My staff are day after day, out there trying to, get our little square pegs into the round holes, or, when magically the square peg opens, like who's going to be the first, or, all the various shenanigans that we have to do to try and work it for this scarce amount of resources that, aren't out there. And anyway, so I think, are we true to our purpose, and are we going to follow through to make sure if there's no accountability, and if we're not going to try to have accountability, then what are we doing here? We can pass all sorts of resolutions if there's not going to be any follow through, and it's the first time we're attempting to have some follow through.
So for you with resolution 2 is the follow through.
Is the follow through on 1? If not, then if there's not, there's never going to be any attempt to follow it with something to say now to bring to the new select committee. Then what's the point of 1?
Steve, did you have something you
Yeah,
wanted?
I'll make this real quick. Because most of you have been far more eloquent than I would be on this. I guess, would you, Member Hammer, would you be amenable to abstaining and have the IWG, whether it's this working group or a different working group that's been involved with this, follow up on some of the issues that you just raised and which was mentioned just now, because as the city attorney indicated, all we can do is just recommend. We can't control, we can't change anything. We can't move the chairs around. And it's very possible that this will just be, we do have, and I'm very pleased to see the letter from NAMI indicating support for this. But we don't have, but it's very possible that the mayor's office and the board will basically say, well, thank you very much, and let's move on. But we need to have a follow-up, I think. Because if this is not changed, then I think your point was very well taken. It's still part of mental health SF. it's still within our domain. However slender that thread currently is, we should be asking questions about the effectiveness of the reconfigured program. We should be getting data about the reconfigured program. And we should probably inquire whether the original recommendations that were made by the IWG back in 2021, are they still, were they implemented? Are they still operable? And maybe other questions that this committee may have. So that it really couples the adoption of the resolution and then secondly, a fallback.
Just a couple points. One is like there are the December implementation report does have recommendations in how they were implemented for SCIRT. So that does have some information in there to go back to.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. If there is an abstention, because right now we have 5 folks who are signaling that they would vote yes. We have 2 folks who have either initial 1 or 2 signaled no. We don't have quorum to pass it.
We do have a quorum. If you
don't,
abstain, if the abstention's counted as part of the quorum.
We need to have 7. We were told, and I will confirm, we have to have 7 votes.
I don't understand if Steve is actually with us or not.
This is the hard part.
You don't understand either, okay.
Yeah, I need. He is.
Technical assistance for him specific.
Yeah.
But if we could take Steve's vote, we'd have
Right.
9, so we could have 2 abstentions.
Yes.
And you have to have quorum for every vote, or why wouldn't, so it's not majority for vote? 7 positive to pass.
So
I
can
thought
you,
you had to have quorum to vote, but not quorum in the positive, voting in favor. Do you see the distinction I'm
Yeah.
making?
Yeah.
You have quorum to
Do you
vote,
need 7 to vote or do you need a majority out of 7?
right?
Or do you just need to have 7 people participate?
We're checking the direction we've
Do you need a
received.
majority out of 7 or do you need 7
Okay.
positives?
can we, text Steve to confirm whether he's on or not?
The bylaws say the working group will act by motion. Any working group member may make a motion orally during a meeting, and any other member may second that motion. All motions must receive a second before the working group votes. And then it says, each member shall vote yes or no unless the member is excused or the member has a legal conflict.
I feel,
But it doesn't say that it has to be 7 votes.
Yeah.
Clear that there has to be a quorum.
there has to be a quorum to vote. I don't believe a quorum has to pass any resolution.
So
I think the quorum has to vote on, okay.
Section 1, which is Article 6, meetings, Section 1, reads, at all meetings of the working group, the presence of 7 members shall constitute a quorum.
Yeah,
And then it goes on to say,
I'd say, you're right.
of the number of members present, the affirmative vote of at
7.
least 7 members shall be required for the approval of any matter unless otherwise provided by.
You're right.
We need a full IWG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it does
and the
make
issue,
sense.
the one issue with Steve is like, and if Steve is still, like on the phone,
Is he still conscious?
I don't. It's an awkward position because he hasn't had a chance to really contribute because of the technical issues. We did tech checks before we came in.
Call in on speakerphone?
We have him call in.
No, but I mean, I'm just,
On somebody's phone, maybe.
yeah.
Oh, that's true. He could just call like my cell or something.
Okay.
Yeah, have them on.
Yeah, why don't you have him or your cell? Either way, whichever you want, Jen.
Oh, my goodness. we should-
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we can stick.
I'm gonna call Steve.
So we need to fill these empty seats.
Keep
and
looking at
resolve
me.
Steve technically.
Steve, please pick up your cell. I hope you're there. Steve. You have the whole IWG here. We have been struggling with technology, as you know. We are in the middle of the resolution number 2 vote about SCIRT. I don't know if we've had these technical difficulties. I don't know if you've continued to listen in. And so, one is apologies for that you are in this position. And 2, somebody had had the brilliant idea, well, instead of trying to work through WebEx, can we call you in?
That was my idea.
That was very, member short, once that's on the record. as a-
Extra cupcake next time.
And I wish we would have thought of your participation by cell phone earlier. It's not optimal, but we are here now. So wondering if you feel comfortable being part of this vote.
Comfortable, what an interesting word. I don't feel comfortable about what happened to me in this whole meeting, and you know that, Jennifer. There were issues discussed in the earlier item that just had me yelling at my laptop. That's why I got on to the IWG. And I was marginalized, and because of technology, I wasn't able to ask any of the questions I felt I needed to be asked that didn't. And so I've been, now we need a vote, right, on something that I have missed some of the discussion. Honestly, I have, like a lot of us here, have a day job too, that once this wasn't going to take up all my time. So I've not heard all of the discussion, nor have I had a chance to weigh in on my feelings. So, no, I'm not comfortable voting, but I will, because this thing's got to move, and that's the way things go sometimes. So I have listened to the last several statements. I have feeling about this resolution that wasn't altered by those. By all rights, I should just recuse, or I should just vote not present because I haven't been in on the whole thing. But you all know this is an important thing to me. It just was a very bad meeting to kind of feel like, okay, so now I'm kind of needed for 80% of the meeting. I had no opportunity to participate as a full member. And I kind of haven't been one of those sit in silence and never say anything at the meeting. So it's been very frustrating. And now I'm actually considering leaving the group because I got programs to run that apparently aren't even part of the picture of the behavioral health system going forward. So apparently all we're going to have is board care homes, health facilities, and involuntary treatment. It isn't a system I recognize at all. And there was no significant challenge of that in the earlier discussion from the department. And it's very frustrating to me. The other thing I'd like to remind folks, no matter anything about the vote, we do have a constituency too, and it is the Board of Supervisors. And it is the Committee on Behavioral Health and Homelessness. So yeah, no, we don't have the power to tell the department what to do, but I don't think any of us was under that illusion. But if there are issues, and it's not just about whether or not we're being listened to or not, that's as much a political discussion also as any other. But of the system of care that we keep being told is what's we're heading. It is heading in a direction that profoundly bothers me. The words community-based treatment have not been used in this whole meeting, and I listened to it in that earlier discussion. Not one statement. We may have talked about, putting more clients in Laguna Honda. That's not community-based treatment. So I don't know. So yes, I'm in favor of the work the committee did in the resolution number 2, because I think it describes the true history of the relationship, and there needs to be something done to reorient our understanding. But I want to remind us that we have an audience at the Board of Supervisors of, and certainly on that select committee of supervisors that have a history being involved in and taking on the hard issue of behavioral health in San Francisco. So it's not just us, the department, and the mayor. It's us, the department, and the Board of Supervisors. And I think that, one of the things we should be requesting after the whole budget period, because everybody's got a priority now for that righteously. So we ought to request that the committee make a presentation to the select committee separate of being interpreted through the department or anyone else.
Steve,
they're there to support it, and I think we're not taking advantage of that opportunity, and we should contact Supervisor Ronan's office to see about in the post-June, July agenda, whether we could also present to the committee. So,
Steve,
Yeah.
Member Fields, if it's okay with you, I'd like to stay on the discussion of resolution number 2. So this is part of our discussion. Member Gonzalez has another comment. And then what we'll do is go to public comment
Yeah.
if there are no more questions, and then we'll vote on it. And unless I hear any concern, and because I think that clearly you have, you are part of the meeting today and should be, and we should have you vote in order to reach quorum.
so
Just out of respect for everybody's time and all the discussion that's happening.
well, I appreciate, let me, okay, I understand. I'm not there in person because I'm disabled and I was prevented from being able to participate fully like everyone else, even though that exists. So
Yeah.
now I'm on the call and maybe I'll just leave and you all can deal with it because I've not had full participation in the discussion. So I appreciate moving the agenda. It's very important. So
Yeah, let's have you stay on for this vote, if that's okay with you, because we're more than halfway through this meeting and there's
it's
been a
not
lot.
actually okay with me. I think I'm gonna participate when I'm given the same opportunities through an entire meeting that you have to. No, I'm not going to stay on for the vote. And you do need to move the agenda, and I understand it. I don't think I've heard enough of the discussion to give a full, comfortable, as the word was stated, vote. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Steve. Thank you. And Steve, okay, well, there you go. We did, as a point of process, we did tech checks before we started this meeting. The technical stuff has worked. We have other people that are on the phone and it appears to be working. We are going to be considering a platform change to Teams and we will be testing that in between. We'll be working directly with Steve to make sure that his particular and unique setup is going to match like what the new platform is so that we don't have this situation. Okay, next meeting. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say as the bad guy here, for the record, I agree with many of the points made here. I agree that it's been disrespectful, that this is not ideal, right? That the way to play nicely is to advise people, say, hey, you guys, we heard your recommendations. We're not going to do it because of X, Y, and Z. I don't know the reasons. We are not privy to the reasons for changing the composition of the team from a behavioral health clinician to a peer. They may have very good reasons. I don't know. None of us know those reasons, right? I think ideally, yes, a behavioral health clinician embedded in these types of teams. We know there's evidence from other teams all over the country who do this. We know that it works. However, having said that, and then to your point about, not being able to find there's a shortage of staffing, frankly, I was a little bit excited and interested to hear that they were going to try this with a peer, which I fully support. I'm very supportive of peers. I think it's, they have the unique ability to really kind of connect with the person in crisis. And number two, it's professional development opportunities for people, right? So I was that piqued my interest. I'm not completely against it. So I'm willing to stay open-minded about it and try it. And I think you're right. We need to have data. If there's no data, there should be data. Because if this works and if it works just as good or better, then we have a new model, and that would be great. So I just want to say that I think all of this is very symbolic. This is all recommendations and urge. And we can say, hey, you guys play nicely. They don't have to, right? And to your point of what are we doing here? If they don't listen to us, then people will leave. They will not want to participate. They will not want to be a member of the advisory committee. And so then they have no, and then everyone loses. So I just want to say they need us. I think they need us because there's a lot of, subject matter expertise here that they don't have. And then they decide whether they were going to, take advantage of that. So I want to make that point.
So thank you. So we have a process point. We can make two decisions. We can either do another round of where we see we are in agreement and then go into roll call. That has been our process in the past. We can also decide to hold off on this conversation and pick it up again in the next. So those are kind of your two lines of,
There will be a couple of members short. Pardon the expression. Will be a couple of members.
you ever heard that before?
No,
Well, we haven't figured out whether the people who are terming out and leaving the working group will be able to be here in June.
Yeah, I don't think the bylaws just say your term expires. It
Yeah.
doesn't say that you continue until your successor is appointed. I mean, the typical corporate bylaws would say that you continue until your successor is named. But the bylaws don't say that. It just, or the ordinance doesn't say that. It just says your term expires. Now, it's possible that you could have your term extended, which is, I guess, what you're looking for, is to have an extended term.
1 month.
It's
Yeah.
still an extended term.
now with this decision, let's this deal with the quorum situation?
we have for any,
would have.
yeah. I mean, we have
Seven.
quorum, but it's the issue of you need 7 votes to pass and we don't have
Have it.
anybody here.
I think we're in a hard situation today because we have a member who would have voted to pass this resolution and made quorum. But he, for reasons beyond his control, apparently is not able to participate and so declined to participate because he wasn't part of the whole discussion. So
I just feel sensitive to like what you were raising with saying the horse is already out of the barn and that waiting a whole other month makes me, nervous because whatever we could possibly get from the clawback is gonna be that much likely if we wait longer.
Yeah.
That would be my biggest, it's like, there's gonna be even more ineffective the longer we wait. However, if we don't pass it, it'll be even not much more ineffective than that, but.
Yes. Let me just add, so, I think, to put it bluntly, I think a lot of people feel that this was a slap in the face, that they weren't consulted, et cetera. And so resolution 1 addresses that, and then resolution 2 addresses, this is, kind of why we're upset. And I think it's already passed, there's nothing left to lose. So I guess my question is, the people that are opposing it are you opposing it because you want to see something different in that language and added to that? Do we got to pass that to next month to say, okay, let's collectively look at this. Okay, we're happy with some of this. And then, let's add some other language. Or is it just like, well, there's no point in doing it, but, I'm not understanding. I think there's kind of nothing to lose here. You need to have some feedback and some kind of kicking and screaming, or else it just weakens your stance moving down the road, right? There's not going to be, okay, well, they passed this resolution, we got to consult them. Well, I wouldn't consult them last time, whatever, let's just get it done, and it's kind of forgotten about, right? But if you kind of bring it up and say, this is what we're upset about that you guys did this time, next time if you're going to do that, we need to have input. So I guess maybe my question is, for the people that have the 1s and 2s, is your objection because you want to see more things in there, that you want to see, okay, well, what is the skirt team doing for linkage and the coordinated care, and where's that coming, or what is kind of the objection? I'm not understanding.
So I voted 2, and I mean, I said 2,
Right.
and then I said 1. So I'll respond first. I mean, I wanted to have an open discussion about resolution 2 to hear before emailing back and forth, which are like, I wanted to hear the discussion, and thought that maybe we could make changes that I would feel comfortable with. I don't like these urgings number 1 through 4 are not what I would urge to have happen, because of the reasons that I already stated. I can imagine, with all the whereases, I agree with all the whereases. But in terms of like what should happen, like I said before, for all those reasons, I don't think I would urge it to, say that mental health professionals have to be on the teams. I probably would agree that it should still be under DPH, or it should still be considered part of Mental Health San Francisco, because it's in the legislation like that, and that's how it developed with our input and a lot of DPH input. So I mean, so all I'm saying in answer to your question is, I think it's really all about the follow-up. As Member Selena said, like, I would want DEM and fire to come back and hear our recommendations for sure. And including data, including reporting, including, hear our recommendations or at least read our recommendations and as part of the follow-up. That's what I'm saying.
So can
I'm not in favor of those four.
Yeah.
Actions.
Can I ask you though, one of the things that we, like in the end, you have to get to a dichotomous vote. You're either yes or no. But one of the things that we have talked about, and Kaylee, if you can advance the slide, one of the things that we have talked about is there's this variation in how much you agree with it. Like it could be like a light yes, it can be a light no, there's all this space.
Yeah.
So my wondering is, has any of these changed? Like, for you, like, is it still like, it's an issue and we need to resolve it? And so you can't, or is it like, I see issues, but I can agree with that. I can live with it.
Like, would I go from a 2 to a 3? Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking. And if not, it's fine. I'm just testing where you are with.
I went from a 4 to
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm disgusted.
You went from 4 to 3.
If that makes me feel any better.
So,
Yeah, and there's no question, it's an honest question. It's not.
Does DEM have any, like, DPH, this resolution is directly to DPH, so they do have a responsibility to come report to us, but DM doesn't, right? So, is there any teeth to us ask, DM has as the resolution is written, DM is not a part of it, so.
I think like Steve's points that the board is, we have lots of constituency, right? I think if our statement was, skirt is still part of the mental health SF ordinance, it's city ordinance. And as such, if it's being run by another department, we don't think it should be run by another department, but if it is, they should have to come to us with data, with regular reports and hearing our recommendations as the program evolves. So that's what I would say. And sure, they could ignore that. But they also could be urged by the mayor and the board of supervisors to work with us the way DPH does. And it's both the responsibility of DPH, but I think also the commitment of DPH to build relationship with this body and to really take the input of this body as programs are developed.
So for you, Hallie, like, have you moved to a 3? You still have a 2? That's my first question.
I mean, honestly, I'm a 2. Like, I would want things to change before I would vote yes.
Okay.
Out of respect for the one less than quorum people in this room who want this resolution to pass. It's really hard to because
I totally respect.
Yeah, so I would still say 2, but I don't know what happened.
Well, can we go back? Let's just try, because that's one of the things that we try to do here is to find consensus on things. And there is a massive amount of consensus on a lot of this, just not some of it. So if we go back, Kaylee, to those 4 points, let's give it one more try and then we'll figure out what to do. So with resolution 2, what I hear for both the folks that were 1s and 2s, 1 through 3 are a little bit on the questionable side because decisions have already been made. It's been moving forward. Like there's lots of, curiosity about maybe this could actually work just as well. And it would be there's lots of reasons for that. Number 4 is totally, completely sounds like it's an agreement is what is this thing? And allow the IWG to see what the evaluation is of skirt. And then maybe 1 through 3 can happen, depending on what happens with the evaluation. So it's essentially kind of thinking through, do you want to modify that evaluation to be, or those resolutions?
Just a comment about the evaluation. The evaluation on skirt was not an evaluation. They were just collecting kind of throughput numbers. So I would be concerned. There was no ability to say this was effective or this wasn't effective, which is part of the issue of saying, why are you stopping it midstream? Who said it wasn't working? There's no data. It was just literally inputs, right? And so whatever you do, it's going to be apples to oranges because there wasn't a proof from the beginning. In fact, we brought up, I think, in this meeting, some concerns with not having a robust evaluation.
It's part of the
This is, yeah, because partner company and UCSF are supposed to do the evaluations that never.
It never happened. So I just I want to stick a pin in that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you won't be able to compare.
Yeah.
if You don't have it.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't mean you can't decide, you can't evaluate it going forward and say, this is it. You can't do a
Yeah.
comparison.
And I would want to ask that of the other departments is what data were they looking at to make that change? I think that would be helpful.
I mean, this program cost a lot of money. It did. It cost a lot of money.
Those rigs.
And never have gotten an evaluation.
At least 18 master's level clinicians came to do that work. It's amazing to be able, I think it was 18, it might have been up to 25, came to do that work. We're able to work, the program recruited them and they all left because they were no longer needed. So I agree, incredibly difficult in this. It's a crisis, but I will say it was a crisis that has been somewhat resolved.
It sounds like where we are is like we're going to push this to next meeting. Is that? Or?
If there's going to be like is there a intent to revise the recommendation? That one?
I mean,
I think if we're gonna defer to the next meeting, really because of this procedural reason for today, then I think we also have another decision to make, which is do we do we revise in the interim? We have a lot more to talk about today. We're already 13 minutes out. I also just want to say I'm on vacation during the next meeting.
Oh, wait a minute.
So I mean, I can't do anything because I can't do remote meetings unless you have the waiver. So that complicates things. But I'm comfortable. I've had my say, and I'm comfortable deferring to the next meeting. I would also work with a working group on making revisions if people felt like they wanted to work on revisions so that we could reach quorum. But you won't have. Hopefully we'll have member fields. And
Sorry?
Action.
No, so because this will be,
member patch.
but we won't try to have her on the June meeting too? We're doing.
And then
She's on leave.
Yeah, but member Patterson, yes.
But also, isn't she terming out as well?
Yeah.
So unless an exception, unless there's some way of doing an extension for,
I thought maybe that was good.
if not.
Happen.
Short 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we're not gonna have quorum at the next meeting, then that's a problem.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in between. And in between, is there appetite to work on the resolution language to get it to a place where we have consensus?
I guess my question is, because of the, closing the door after the buses and cows have gone, is whether people have any appetite for working on the resolution so that it takes into account the changes they made. What do we want to have happen now? Which is stronger than, it's really different from what we had in resolution number 1. It's asking all the departments that are part of Running Skirt now to work with us as the program is now developed.
Question, is it possible to take the vote and then still decide something different? Or once you vote, it's like a dead issue?
Yeah, you can, I think you can.
I think it's
It'd just be, why not you reintroduce something else?
It'd be a different,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I hear, sort of.
A different resolution.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a formal vote? Is that what you're suggesting, Vitka?
We have to open up for public comment before.
We have to do it anyway.
Before, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think, given the unknown about when it'll come up again, and who's gonna, when it comes up again, it might at least close the loop, say, took a vote, failed. And the next iteration of this group can bring up a different resolution.
In case it helps inform anything, I was checking sorry for the slow loading on a hotspot in here, but the good governance guide for the city. So unless bylaws state otherwise, and they don't, folks can continue in their seat past the completion of their term until otherwise replaced.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you. That's helpful. So the vagueness works to our favor.
But then that just applies to you then?
Becca
Oh, and Vicka.
and Dr. Lasad.
Well,
She's on leave.
but yeah.
I think we have the same, we all have the same group and we'll figure
Right.
out like how to include Steve and we will work from, you know.
Yeah.
And then assuming that.
Year, I don't know when they're gonna fill 4.
I'm not here in July.
And you're not here in July, but you'll be here in June.
Yeah, I'll be here June. Yeah,
As long as I can.
So- So folks, so how about this? So let's wait. My suggestion is we wait until June. In between this meeting is the resolution folks take another pass to get to what looks like will be a little bit more of a consensus. And then we bring it back. Or Sarah, I can see you're looking off into the windows, or leave it as is. Which one you would?
Criticism is so high right now that it's like, whatever. Okay. Not to channel Steve, but I feel like it's going in the direction of what Dr. Hammer has proposed anyway, which makes it less important to do it as quickly. You know what I mean? If we're not trying to reverse things, but we're rather trying to be like, it's harm reduction, right? Here we are with what we got. How can we, mitigate? So then feels less sort of important to get it done now. You can all see the disappointment on my face anyway, but
Yeah, I mean, I think I lean towards taking a vote on the resolution now and seeing it fail and a new one be created that is more like start afresh on one that's more palatable to those who are in opposition. I think what I'm hearing is taking some of the teeth out of it. It's more like, how can we make this, like the horse left the barn. And so what can we do, which is a different conversation to me. And worthwhile, don't get me wrong, I think that's a worthwhile conversation.
So now
But it's,
yes,
but
now
do
we
we
have 3 choices. Do we need to have it fail in order to start again? Because maybe we don't need to go through all that trauma-inducing.
Yeah, I agree.
You want to say
With Sarah on that.
to table it, right?
So let's.
And work on it some more.
Motion.
I want to go back to something I said before.
so.
And I think I think we know pretty much what we think the vote is going to be. Second, yeah, the horse may be out of the barn, but it's still supposed to be our horse.
I agree with that. Yep.
And we don't, even if we don't move the motion right now and we defer it to a future meeting.
Got to get back on the saddle. I am just.
Rein it in.
For deferring the vote.
We need new shoes. Baby needs new shoes.
Hey.
No, seriously. I think if we do anything today, then we should put something in motion to start an evaluation and seek the data that we were talking about before. Try to evaluate how is this program operating now as opposed to what's operating before February, and what are the changes? Is it meeting the needs of people, or is it not meeting the needs of people? Is it improving or not improving the ability to move people from the street to services and care management, and that we push and we move and we move on that front, and we can decide maybe between now and the next meeting if there's a formulation under the resolution that we may want to come back to and pass next month.
So your suggestion would be to move forward requests from them for about what the changes were, what the data is, how it's working, and then, am I correct, without a resolution?
It breaks my heart to do it because I really think this should that this should be passed. I'm four square on that. But I'm also very, very concerned that we just push it down the road and we don't start asking the questions that we need to ask, then we have a lost opportunity. And that we should take that opportunity and move on that now.
Friendly amendment to something I'm not sure I agree with. I don't know if you can friendly amend something. You're not.
Was it the horse analogy?
But I did have a question I was going to ask after a vote, if a vote was taken, which is to the first point that you made, or when you kind of talked about how the changes were made, and you discussed what the city attorney said, we didn't have the ability to determine law, like what's in the law.
That's correct.
I wondered if maybe the city attorney could opine for the group on is the current, how they can understanding that isn't within the law. But I know that they don't.
They didn't
don't
come to
serve-
that understanding, I don't think.
They don't speak to us, they speak to the city. So perhaps they could opine you, the city, and you could bring the opinion back just so the group understands better. Because we don't know the answer either. They said, you don't know, but we do, being we city attorney. So just come tell us.
But is that what we discussed, that we should get them to look into this?
I didn't
So don't think that we
specifically raise that question.
Asking for an open.
I did not ask the city attorney specifically.
Not yet,
I mean, he saw what was in here.
Yeah.
And did not volunteer a position. And I'm not sure reading between the lines that the city attorney has all the information or facts necessary to have given an off the cuff
Sure.
answer if I had asked that question.
Okay, so I think we have three decisions. We have a motion on the table. We can either vote to continue, what's the word?
Well, you'd have to do a second or maybe there's not a first and a second if you want to try the motion.
Well, there's a motion on the table though, so we can either,
Yeah, not yet.
there wasn't a motion, okay,
We're gonna vote, but not
No.
motion it, right? I thought.
okay.
We were to wave our fingers first.
Oh, we waive the fee. Okay, so we have three choices. We can defer voting on the resolution. And I would say for procedural reasons, because of us not being able to reach quorum because Steve wasn't able to join, to member fields. We can defer voting.
We don't have 7 votes.
Oh, we have
7 affirmative votes.
We're quorum to me, but we don't have quorum to pass the resolution. So we can defer our vote because we want to revise the resolution based on this discussion, or we can just vote. And if the resolution doesn't pass, then get back to work with a new resolution that would get at the follow-up items that we've all discussed.
If I could just make a comment.
Yeah.
I have to leave in 5 minutes. I presume this was going to be a 3-hour meeting. And I have a 1 o'clock, I have a 1 o'clock appointment that I need to be at.
Okay,
I think I can get there since I'm walking, I think I can get there in 30 minutes.
okay, so we still need to open up to public comment. And without you voting, member Lipton, and without member Field being able to vote, does anybody think that we're still going to vote on this resolution, or that we should still vote on this resolution today? Because we still need to hear public comment before we vote.
Yeah, I don't think you should reinvent the wheel and start a new resolution over. I see a lot of work done by the members to establish the second resolution, and now there's feedback given. I would hate to see them have to throw that work away. My opinion would be that you kind of table it and let them work on it a little bit more with, feedback they've gotten today. That's,
I'm not sure that we'd have to throw it away, though. Can't we use the bones of it to
Sure.
doctor it and?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. It wouldn't be so like, can't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
anything to do
No,
with
I know,
it.
yeah, but yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, just if it's adding more work.
Yeah, but could you have?
So let's,
I don't want to make an assumption that that you'll perform in the next meeting. You won't be there. I mean, I may not be there. I mean, my term is ended. So
I think Falcor could.
I just want, I want that to be clear that maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not gonna hear, even if.
No, he's.
I'll be here.
Dr. Hammer's not. gonna go.
Folks, Hillary's here and she has a couple things to say and we want to make sure we can get here before. So maybe let's cut this conversation. No.
Just before Steve leaves, remember, listen, just quickly, I didn't get to one announcement that I wanted to just make sure to share with this group, which is an update to our 5150 training of specifically EMTs. This is sort of happening in real time, so wanted you all to be aware as it is happening. DPH is going to update our 5150 training program to include all of the community paramedics in the fire department. Up till now, as you all know, there's recent health code update that allowed for EMT training in performance of a 5150 hold. The initial rollout period was just to the paramedic, to the community paramedicine captains and acting captains. We will start expanding the training eligibility to all of the community paramedics. Just in the context of this whole larger conversation, wanted you all to be aware of that. We have been working closely and will be working closely with the fire department, of course. There's, and additionally, we'll continue our already existing sort of quality improvement case review work, which we do for all of the 5150 hold under, I guess, the behavioral health director, my authority, which is different than for peace officers who do not act under the behavioral health director authority, but mental health professionals, licensed physicians, and now EMTs do. So wanted everyone to be aware of this. We are happy to talk more. We anticipate the trainings will start happening in June. We will do them recurrently, and we think that will go live sometime in July. So more to come. And I know Member Lipton, you have raised issues around 5150s with frequency, so I wanted to make sure you heard it before you run out for your appointment.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
So now back to, thank you.
Well, if there are no more comments from members of the committee, let's open it up to public comment.
And I want to confirm so the next steps with this are that it's not moving forward as is. Is there working between the groups, the meetings to revise something?
Are you able to work with me on that? Okay. Yeah. Because I don't know when you're going out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
3, 4 weeks.
So Sarah and Hallie, thank you. We'll work together on that.
Probably full bit can.
If you guys want an interloper,
Okay, they'll be the kind of board.
You know, and, okay,
I'm happy to.
okay.
I'm not. Jen, not Vicki.
No, not because, sorry, I'll take it. Okay, so it's Sarah, Hallie, and Steve L. Okay.
I said I'll probably pull bit can.
Probably, okay.
Officially.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so that is the next steps with this. Is everybody, yeah. Okay, let's move to public comment then.
So we're now doing, this is a public comment for resolution 2, is that?
Yes.
Okay. So then, members of the public who wish to provide public comment on this agenda item can participate in person, online, or on the phone. I'll first do the people who are in person. Is anybody in person who would like to make a public comment? I'm assuming since you're.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody gets 2 minutes and I will give you a 30-second warning when your time is about to be up.
Thank you. I just want to say, I'm not sure why you guys need to rewrite it, because it looks like if all the members were here, it probably would have passed, because it's a very sensible and obvious thing to do. The reasons that I heard for opposing it, I don't know, between like wait and see what happens, if it works or not, and to assume that whoever made these decisions without telling anybody about it had some reason. The fact is, we're all here as mental health professionals. Many of the decisions that happen are purely political. And I don't see the concern for the mental health aspect. I would not leave a peer counselor to deal with crisis situations, because peer counselors they need support. They're not mental health professionals. They work very well. They're wonderful. I mean, we need them. But, you know, mental health professionals can also are very well at de-escalation and asking the right questions at the right time. It's, you know, you wonder why it's hard to hire mental health professionals when somebody's tell them, oh yeah, fireman or a peer counselor can do your job. I mean, that is just like horrible. That's horrible. That's why it's really hard to work in the mental health system if you are a mental health professional, because so often your decisions are undercut and you are devalued. So, you know, the whole thing just reeks of like, let's put it off. And that is just so disheartening. It's so disheartening. And to, you know, assume, oh, well, the horse has not left the barn because the city makes changes all the damn time and they don't tell anybody about it and nothing. It's not like it's the end of the world. Okay. It's not like, oh, they made this decision, so we just have to kind of live with it. That's how the city has gotten into the mess that it's in, because people make decisions that do not understand the ramifications of their decisions. And you guys are here to understand the ramifications of those decisions. Okay. I know paramedics, I know firemen, you know, they're good people, but they're not mental health professionals. Okay. That's all I have to say.
Any other public comment from people on the list? Sure.
So this is a really tough discussion and I appreciate everybody's input and thoughts about it. But I just wonder, so this could sound really naive. I'm just going to say 20 years ago in BHS, mental health and substance abuse didn't talk to each other. I mean, that's been a huge, really lengthy and intense process to get to where we are now, or where you are now, you. I wonder about, so there's this Office of Coordinated Care and there's the SF Gov and then there's DPH. And like, couldn't there be some kind of collaboration? Some way of work, if everybody's here on behalf of the people that are suffering on the street, couldn't there be some way, there's accountability for making a decision that was under this purview, and that I think absolutely shouldn't have happened, but it did. So is there some way moving forward to find a way to work together, not in a naive, like, oh, let's all work together, but, you know, some kind of a collaboration to be able to do some decision making together about it. I don't know what that would look like, but that's my thinking.
Thank you. Thank you. Council person? Anyone online would like to make a comment? Raise your hand. Oh, there's a Laura Thompson.
Thomas.
Oh, sorry, Thomas.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Laura Thomas, I'm the Senior Director of HIV and Harm Reduction Policy with the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. And while I have deep respect for the expertise around the table and the thoughtfulness with which you are approaching this, while you've been discussing process, the mayor and the police chief are literally announcing the increased criminalization and arrest of people in behavioral health crisis and taking people to jail. If this group doesn't stand up for the importance of health-based approaches to health crises, who is going to in this city? The people who are in crisis on our streets deserve trained professionals caring for them, not police. But please stand up and take a stand and push back on moving skirt to DEM. I don't think that's the appropriate place. I think it belongs under the Department of Public Health. And also, as someone who's been a veteran of a lot of different work groups like this, I think it's also worth brushing up on Robert's rules and figuring out what your rules of operation are. Every group that I've been on, if you have established a quorum, then it only takes a majority of voting members present to pass something. And it's a little hard for me to tell, but it seemed like you had that vote count to move this forward. So thank you very much for all your work on this, and please move forward. Thank you.
Anyone else online like to make a public comment? I don't see any other hands. Recommend we close public comment.
Public comment.
And then there's another. So before we go on, so we had a couple of things that we had hoped to talk about. We had hoped to hear from the Soma Rise group who attended. So we'll do that another time. We also were going to have an update on the IWG membership, and I think we'll just do a really quick update on that. Kaylee, if you could go to slide, I think it's 34. It's after the Soma site visit. We have a slide, has membership governance, 2-year terms. It has, so this is my mistake on this, is that I had typed in 5 members are stepping off or resigning. That did not account for Amy Wong and Sarah. And so that was my apologies, as I did not realize that you had not stepped off or that you were staying on, sorry. So that was a mistake on my part.
We just wanted to spend a little time on this. I acknowledge we're way over time. There's been a lot of questions about it. So, and I want to also apologize for the error, and I'm very happy that Member Wong and Member Short are staying. So we have received the intention from Chair Lasser to resign. We have not yet received a letter of resignation from her, but we believe that will continue. I have shared the upcoming openings with our liaison to the Board of Supervisors, and she's working with me to connect with the appropriate clerks and to get this moving. I will also circle back, I think, to the city attorney to confirm the length of time that could be continued if folks that we're considering or that wish to step off want to continue in their seat to help with quorum. And also to get further instructions about what you need to do to continue in your seat, continue your reappointment. But I want to acknowledge, as has been previously stated, we're going into budget hearings, and most regular business at the board is held up. So I don't quite know yet what the answer will be for when we can get things through, but we're contacting all the people we're supposed to and trying to move it ahead, so.
A quick question on P3 for the lived experience. I know there's one appointed by the mayor and there's one appointed by the board. Is that, do we bring recommendations for that and then voted on, or how does that?
So I haven't been here for all of the, the process we've had previously.
Okay, so when it says appointed by board?
That's the
what
Board
board
of
is
Supervisors.
that? Copy that.
That seat was only filled for the first 6 months. That particular seat 3 was only filled for the first 6 months of this.
So is it still open?
Yeah,
It's been open for
for 3 years.
Yeah.
So if you have recommendations.
I will.
Then
Yeah, if you can share them with me.
Oh, yeah. I just got to reach out to see if they're interested.
I think it would help wherever there are recommendations to help fill these seats. I think it would help expedite the process if we can put some names forward. So.
And then I think one really big question that we need to consult city attorney about is this, just as the comment, just the question we came up with. It seems like we have a conflict between Robert's Rules of Order, but I think also how other commissions function.
The bylaws.
And what it says in the bylaws about.
Yeah.
Because we really need to understand whether if we have quorum to vote, it doesn't make sense for you to also have to have quorum to pass something.
Yeah.
And that would have, we would have been able to get through
Yeah.
voting on this resolution if that were not the case.
I think.
And if we're only going to have 8 members going forward, to have 8 members, but 7 members vote to pass any resolution, or really to take any action, including approving minutes, will be very, very difficult. So,
Well, 88% pass rate.
yeah. So let's get that.
I was going to say, I think that may require amending the bylaws as they're currently written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. We still, oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, so Dr. Rai has also been off for a year. And it was a really important voice on this. And these mayoral appointments, I know it's a different process. You can't apply the way you can to the BOS seat. So I don't know if there's, if you would let us, I mean, have you approached, I feel like they would probably get them, then the mayor would probably then have to get them directly from the department. And if you've approached anyone who would be willing to be appointed by the mayor for seat 9, and that looks like will be, Dr. Eisens will also be a mayoral, and I feel like those are like really, it's harder because you can't also just express interest necessarily and put in an application. And I don't know if there's any ideas about who can fill those seats. Department.
Sorry, we should put together a little like cheat sheet of like, here's the sort of job description, here's how you apply to each, here's the open seats and the description.
That's something we can.
Like a little marketing thing, And actually you can technically, as far as I know, apply for the mayor's seat, but it's just a different process. And also, how do you cut through?
Yeah, how do you get the aid
here? And do contact her appointment secretary.
Or maybe it's Shalini, just because Shalini is the staffer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, have you all recommended, talked to anyone back to that, like has.
Yeah, it's been, yes, the answer is yes. So, yes, reaching out to Shalini, it's a good idea. And we also, I think there's, obviously with this cycle ending, there's a level of urgency now that we can also raise up as you all can. If there are suggestions for people who you all may know that we do, I just want to kind of make sure just also to attend to important issues of racial equity and diversity in this group. And so in particular, recommendations from all groups who have been underrepresented in this body and would be most welcome. If you want to make recommendations directly to Shalini, I think she'd be very open to that. And if you, just seeing Valerie and me, that would be great as well. And I think just directly reaching out to her would be just fine.
Let's go to final public comment.
I'm bringing her a donut.
Bring her
Yeah.
or coffee.
Chocolate.
If we left before, metaphor.
Yeah. Question, we did not do the voting to excuse people?
Oh, thank you.
We did vote to excuse Chair Lassar. We did that already, but not Member Patterson, and I don't know what.
And we need to, yeah.
I don't know if we need to vote.
He was here. We didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
okay.
don't have to vote to excuse.
So,
Okay.
discussion about excuse or no excuse. Member Patterson.
I mean, the letter of the law, right? So I guess. No.
All right. Should we go to a vote?
Is that a motion?
There's a
Oh.
motion?
Goes in.
Yes, it is.
Down to like, I guess, we just, yeah, I motioned, a no
Excuse, yeah. Okay, so, okay, so Kaylee, that was Sarah brought the resolution. We can
Tell him that.
agreed. Nobody can say anything except it's recorded. Vote. Roll call
Okay.
vote.
Okay, roll call. Member Eisen. Member Gonzalez.
Yes.
Hammer.
Yes.
Member Lipton. Member McGuigan.
What does a yes mean?
A yes is not excused.
Okay, yes, not excused. Okay. Thank you. It's clear now. I get it. Thank you.
Giving up the first form.
Yeah, okay. Yes means no.
So
Thank
Member
you.
McGuigan said yes. Is that true? Okay. Member Salinas.
Yes.
Member Short.
Yes.
Member Wong. We have 7 yeses, so the majority have not excused the absence.
Okay.
Oh my God, we passed something.
We did. So final comment. Thank you so much. I know for that point, we needed to go to final public comment.
So is this the public comment on membership and governance or on other
everything.
jurisdictions?
Anything
Okay.
that's going on.
So this is now members of the public who wish to provide public comment on anything within the jurisdiction of the committee that we have not yet, that is not on the agenda. You can participate in person, online, by raising your hand, as well as if you're on the phone, you can also raise your hand. by pressing pound and then pound again and then *3. So this, you will have 2 minutes. Does anybody in person like to make a public comment? How about anybody online? Any hands raised? I do not see any raised hands. So I recommend closing public comment.
Okay. Close. It's fine to close.
Okay, so quick, like, next slide, so just a little bit of like awareness. So in June, we're going to have the staffing and wage analysis, so the controller's office is going to be coming in to give that presentation. They are still looking and hoping that somebody will participate before the June meeting in a discussion group that is specific to this like there's been general conversations about staffing and wages that they've been doing, some conversations with folks. This is really specific to BHS. So if folks would participate, that would be great. I'll send out another with the post meeting message. We'll also be talking about Department of Homelessness and Housing, overdose prevention dashboard. A note that in July, the maps are going to be coming to this group. So those three flows that we talked about, those are going to come, and with that we will be talking about a community engagement process for that mapping. And then analytics and evaluation is going to be here. Just like we're starting to do now is like out that this email, if there are other things, the post email, if there are other things that you want to hear, please let us know.
So I think we should I think we should ask for a skirt resolution. I mean, a skirt update on the.
A skirt update?
Even though we don't quite know what it's going to look like because we haven't passed a resolution.
A skirt update. Okay, so we will ask for some information about that. Okay, last couple points of, usual housekeeping. Next slide, Kaylee. Discussion group that will go out, staffing and wages, the usual meeting procedures, which they will be drafted and posted. There's that ongoing email, like thank you for NAMI for using that email and sending the letter in support of the work that the IWG is doing around skirt. Next slide.
And does does the NAMI letter go on the website? That's
I could, yeah. Okay, I'll put it on the website. Okay, and just, we started including this, and it's also just part, these are all the different committees that are going on so that we're all kind of clear and awareness of how these things fit and connect. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I have another question.
Yes.
Has the NAMI letter also been shared with the other departments that are running skirt? Okay, let's make sure that. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Seriously, yes. Motion, second.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want to do a ceremonial like. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Maybe Adam will talk about it a little bit like.
Jen, who seconded?
So we have a.
Oh, no,
Eisen? Okay.
We have like
Thank you.
to present on Epic. Keep hearing about Epic.
Of knowing what Epic is.
I'd like to have a better understanding and then like how it works and like.
We want
like.
And so, and Epic is how they, it's complex.